I call this meeting to order. It is October 20th at 6:30 p.m. And first I'll do the roll call. Mayor Pro Tem here. Councilmember Bunker.
Here.
Councilmember Styler is absent. Councilmember McLeod.
Here.
Councilmember Clinton.
Here.
And I'm Mayor Glaze. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And then please remain standing. One of our deacons from the Baptist church is here, Mr. Rodney Purswell, and he will do the invocation for us.
Let us pray. Our Father, Lord, we just come to you, Father. Father, so thankful we can live in a country where we can exercise our voices, Father. We just thank you for your wisdom in the proceedings of this meeting, Father. We pray your wisdom be with us, be with each one, Father. We again just thank you so much that we live in this great country. We also just thank you for the service of these council members to the city of Martindale. They give of their time, Father, and we just pray your wisdom and your understanding be with them as they make decisions regarding the community. Lord, again, we just thank you. We thank you for this time. May it bring honor, praise, and glory to you. It's in Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Okay, tonight we will proceed with public comments. And then after that, we will do the proclamation that is under the mayor's report. And then we'll go into the public hearing after that. So we do have a couple of people who have signed up for public. So the difference between the public comments is you can speak on anything that is related to the city. The public hearing is for the zoning change. So first up is Mary Beth Harper.
I've got some comments from the library. Okay, we just recently received a $500 grant. For us, that's pretty significant, from Native Seed. This will allow us to purchase wildflower seeds and also native grasses that are endemic to Blackland Prairie. And also there's appropriate seeds for the San Marcos River ecosystem. We look forward to working with the city and with the Parks and Recreation Board to get these planted. And planting day is going to be November the 11th.
November 11th, okay.
Yeah. And we're going to have the Fiji fraternity to help us to envision how much $500 per seed is. Imagine a box is 1 foot by 1 foot by 1.5 feet with grass seeds, which are very tiny. And that's a lot of seed. Secondly, library is having a Medicare Medigap information session. And this is set for Wednesday, November 9th. It's the day after the elections from 4 to 4:30. It's going to be in the library. And December the 7th is the deadline to sign up for any Medicare Medigap changes or sign up for a new plan. Can I ask what?
Did you say 4 to 4:30?
4 to 4:30, yeah.
Okay, it's okay.
And we can even stay later than that. That's because there's people that work and we realize that, yeah. Also, on voting, early voting is November 3rd and 4th at Three Rivers Church. Okay, now mail-in ballots, the last day to apply to get a mail-in ballot is October 28th. And there's stipulations to get a mail-in ballot. And once you get your mail-in ballot, it has to be postmarked and in at the elections office by November the 9th by 5 p.m. And I suggest if you do get a mail-in ballot, mail it early because who knows about the mail system. And of course, regular voting day is November the 8th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There is a sample ballot posted in the library if you want to look at it. And there's some online information. If you want to go to Vote 411, it's one place, and another one's votetexas.gov is another place. Just generic information about voting. Okay, that's my information.
Thank you. Okay, and then next person is Virginia Parker.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm Virginia Parker. I live over in the Falls, and I just wanted to come and speak out against the zoning change or the potential zoning change. I just wanted to say why I didn't love the idea of changing mixed use over to commercial, because we have a lot of people living in that stretch of Martindale. And if they were to sustain significant damage, like above 50%, they have a severe fire, tornado, and of course flooding happens to this town, then they could not then rebuild their home. And so we'd essentially be pushing people out. In addition, the tax rate of commercial property is higher, and so that could potentially have severe financial impacts to residents in town as well. So I would just like to ask you to please vote no to this zoning change from mixed use to commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian, did you have any more public comments? Okay, so at this time, I would like to ask the representative from the Hayes Caldwell
Women's Center. Long name, HCWC.
And so I have a proclamation of the city of Martindale. It says, whereas the crime of domestic violence violates the basic human rights of safety and dignity, and 228 Texans were killed due to domestic violence, and whereas the problems of domestic violence and teen dating violence are not confined to any group of people, but cut across all economic, racial, gender, and societal barriers. And whereas the impact of domestic violence and teen dating violence directly affects individuals and communities when society ignores or tolerates violence in relationships. And whereas last year, the Hayes Caldwell Women's Center provided face-to-face services to over 816 local victims of domestic violence and provided 7,753 days of shelter. And whereas last year, HCWC provided these direct services to 5 victims from the city of Martindale. And now therefore I, Catherine Glaze, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of Martindale, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2022 as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Sorry about that. And call upon the people of Martindale to work together with HCWC and local partners to bring an end to domestic violence and teen dating violence. And I will give you the same. Whoops, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Quick, yes.
Thank you. Very important.
We know 5 seems like a very low number, but just so we know, yeah, it's so significant. And in Caldwell County specifically, our numbers have really increased pretty dramatically, almost doubled what we served last year. We just got our new numbers for this upcoming year as well, so we've already exceeded that. But just know that within this community, we're here to serve you. Our headquarters, yes, is in San Marcos, just down the road, like 7 miles away from here. But we do provide services throughout the county, including virtual services for those individuals who have a hard time getting there for transportation. If they need counseling or advocacy or any kind of support, we're here to support them. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will now, it is 6:40, and we will open the public hearing. And I'll turn this over to Adrian.
Okay, so I have two submissions here. The ones marked with a star on it are going to be read out loud. And those without it, have requested to speak during the public hearing.
Okay. Okay, Sandra Powell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sandra Powell. I live at 906 Northwest River Road, and I do oppose the zoning change to commercial because as she spoke about, that's my home. The family's been, the land has been in the family for over 40 years. If the zoning change goes through and something does unfortunately happen to tap into my home, I have nowhere else to go. I would like the freedom to be able to rebuild my home there. My son lives in Bernie right now, but as I'm getting older, we've talked about him building a small house or cabin on my second property there at 904 Northwest River Road, so that he can help take care of me. As far as the tax rate increasing, that frightens me. I'm the only one in my household. I teach in Kyle. As you know, teachers do not get paid what we are worth. Every dime that I have left over at the end of the month, I put in a savings account so that I can pay my taxes on my properties now, and barely doing that. So if the zoning change goes through and we have, the increased taxes, that scares me. I don't want to be dependent on anyone. I don't like being in default of paying for anything, for everything. I just want everything to stay the same because I want the freedom to be able to build on my land, whether it's my own home, my son coming to stay there. I want to be able to pay my taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next comment is from Corey Roloff. I am 100% against the rezoning. It will create more traffic on an already congested road, create more noise, light pollution, as well as more pollution near the river. Rezoning would make it easier for unwanted businesses to locate here. It would be a blight to Martindale. And so that was Corey Roloff. Okay, Jack Mudd.
Hello, I'm Jack Mudd. I live up here on North River Road, and I want to talk about the zoning change. First of all, years ago, this was all of my property, all the way to the corner, was commercial property. I don't know when it was changed. Somebody said it was around 2007, 2008 to multi-use. I didn't know anything about that until recently. I talked to Sandra Powell. She lived in the area on that same piece of property that we're talking about zoning. She never heard about it changed to multi-use. She didn't, and she was always in a commercial area. I talked to another lady today that's in that area, same area, same thing. They never knew that it was multi-use until it's come up, just recently. So what I'm getting at is that it was commercial, and it stands to reason it would be. Highway 80 is a state highway, and it goes through, and commercial property is going to be off of highways, and that's where net revenue is going to come to the cities when something goes in like that. Anyway, I am for it, and I have a question about what has been spreading around, and I think it comes from the city government about this. If your house burns down and you're in commercial property, that you're gonna have trouble getting your money or not, if 50% or more has to burn or something to get it. I talked to an attorney today that was out of town. He wasn't, but he's heard of similar situations, but not this particular situation. And he said when he gets back in town, which will be next week sometime, he'll give me a more direct answer on that. So I questioned that a little bit, the way he said he sounded really doubtful about that 50% rule that Mr. Lee Rust has been telling people. Like I said, I'm for rezoning. You know, commercial businesses and things, I would much rather live next to something like that than apartment complexes. You know, the San Marcos is growing up, 5-6-story apartments. We're gonna have people coming in here, and I think that will fall right in line with this multi-use situation. And I would much rather say, and you're talking about the traffic on the road, on this old road, there will be a lot of traffic on the road when those big old multi-story apartment complexes come and start building in here. Now, if y'all want to leave it like that, that's fine, but I don't like to see that. What I'd like to see the city council to consider and look at is changing the zoning on some of this property and not all of it. If you come from Martindale and come all the way up to the end of my property, if you look on here, covers almost half of what we're talking about, acreage wise. Some of it's really narrow down at the far west side. I would recommend come in here. Let's see. I'm trying to say right in here, and all of this be zoned commercial to right here at the end of the property that I sold that wants to put a convenience store. Right here, and then everything else over there, leave it as is. Just change this. You're talking the width of this and all. There's a house right here that if she falls in this area that was talked about, that if her house burns down, that's the only reason she would be against the zoning change. But she said if that isn't right, she said she would rather live next, but she's gonna be right next to the fire station anyway. And she likes that idea. But she doesn't want homes, apartments or anything here. The only thing that they would be against would be if they couldn't rebuild in case their house burned down, you know, where it is. So that's where I stand on the matter. I'm for the zoning.
Thank you.
Well, there's 2 chairs if anybody wants them. I'll put them over here. Just.
Here, once you scoot that down here, I'll just give it this one.
Yeah, just pull
And
that
then
down.
Yours over Sam.
Okay.
also.
There's another one.
Here's one up front.
Yeah, there's one up here.
One right here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
As we're talking about things.
what are we doing?
Did I turn that air conditioner?
What happened?
She's getting chairs.
Good idea.
Okay, Errol Frederick.
Somebody.
Hi, Errol Fredericks. I live in Moon Circle Parkway. Definitely a neighborhood or area that's going to be potentially rezoned. Been living in Martindale for about 15 years or so. I see no point in rezoning this property at all. We got, about 12 families in Moon Circle and Indian Court, the 2 mobile homes that are next to each other. This is just a cash grab. We're trying to get more taxpayer revenue and trying to kick the lower income families out. You know, this is an attack on affordable housing. There's a lot of growth in Central Texas, and a lot of mobile home parks have been shut down just so that the city can make an extra dime or two. It's pretty shameful and honestly, I would say I don't see the point in changing those specific properties to commercial because they are in a floodplain, if I'm not mistaken. And what better housing than something that has a non-permanent foundation than mobile homes? I mean, you can raise a mobile home up another foot or two if the floods start happening more. But what are we gonna do? We're just gonna close down the mobile home parks and move in what? A nice liquor store, maybe a strip club? What's the goal here if we're talking about commercial properties? It sounds like we got one guy here in the audience that owns a whole bunch of acreage, and he's convinced you all to make him a little extra money by rezoning this property to commercial. But we're not thinking about the long-term picture here, protecting the, peace and quiet of Martindale, Texas. I don't want to.
Could you show where his property is, Jerry?
Moon Circle Parkway, right next to Indian Court.
It's right here.
Okay.
Circle.
Where it's, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, like I said, I've been living here for about 15 years. We keep to ourselves. Everyone's, friendly, peaceful. No one bothers each other. If it were a different situation and the mobile home parks had only 1 or 2 residents, I could maybe see this, or if there's a whole bunch of crime, but there's not. It's people keeping to themselves, living their lives. And we're trying to kick them all out because of what? Because, we can make an extra few bucks. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling now at this point, but I'm definitely against this. And I think anyone who votes for the rezoning ought to be ashamed of themselves. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This one's from John Doria. He lists the property numbers of his property. Velma Doria and John Doria live off Highway 80, where the proposed zoning change request made by the city council. My wife and myself are notifying the city council of Martindale that we deny the proposed zoning change that has been presented. Please continue to inform property owners, I think he meant publish the outcomes of the proposed pending zoning changes. Your attention on this matter is greatly appreciated.
Could you show that property on that map?
Which one was it?
37976 and then 28171.
I can't.
It's gonna take a while for it to load in as a large file.
Let everybody else see it.
37, that's
Her
gonna
property,
be,
Next to the fire station.
zoom it up a little bit. You're talking about Doria's
37976.
property.
Yeah.
Doria, yeah.
Right there? Okay.
Well, it's down here, but you're gonna have to zoom it up.
That's okay, we've got pointers.
We got it.
it's on touchscreen.
We got
Yeah,
it.
It's not a touch.
Where is it? Where is it?
It was just showing it right there.
Oh, okay, by the number.
Yeah, by the number.
Yeah.
That's all I need to see. Here we go.
A little bit too high resolution, I think.
Peter's struggling with it more.
Sounds like.
May I make a suggestion that would be like, while we're going along and we're reading those and as we have like citizens that are speaking out, can you like put a mark, a highlight or something to just, or a check or something?
I'm taking some mental notes so that I can start writing down where they are and address them in the comments.
That would be
Okay.
nice to see in the minutes, like who spoke regarding the properties that are directly involved. Fantastic, thank you.
Michelle Rumbard is actually across the river in Guadalupe County. She's across from River Bend, very close to it'd be across from River Bend,
Are you talking about the first?
but it's in
Cottonseed Run.
Yeah.
Cottonseed Run, yeah. She's on
I know where
Cottonseed Run.
Cottonseed Run is.
She says, "Dear esteemed elected officials of Martindale, I recently learned that tomorrow the council will be discussing zoning changes along Highway 80 from mixed use to commercial. As a citizen of Martindale and a huge advocate for this community, I strongly urge you to vote no to this proposal. I understand that there must be a balance between the lovely community we all enjoy now and the need for tax base to pay for streets and other infrastructure. But why would there be a sudden shift from mixed to commercial? This would increase the amount of impervious cover and create new levels of traffic and eyesores, in addition to decreasing residential space. I realize that it is in the citizens' responsibility to stay abreast of potential changes, but it seems that with this situation and the Lanzola situation, the council has long advance notice of such proposals, and that the citizens are only getting last minute news to vote, to a vote.
Amen.
Is there some news feed I could subscribe to in order to hear from the council ahead of time instead of relying on Facebook posts from interested other parties? I appreciate any suggestions you can provide in this respect. I would be interested to understand how this proposal came about, who would benefit from it, and why you might consider such change. I will be in attendance tomorrow evening and hope that these issues are discussed in a frank, educational way. We are very invested in the future of our gem of a community. Is Michelle here? Oh, there you are. I'm sorry, I should have let you read it. It's actually not sudden. This has been in the works for over a year. And we've had workshops, and it's just that the mood of the community has changed. I think because of what has happened with Lanzola and stuff. So it wasn't as sudden as y'all would think.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, is Barry Hamilton here?
No.
Okay,
Michelle.
she's the next one. She says, I understand that spot zoning is not ideal, but those people with residences on Highway 80 should not lose any rights and should be grandfathered. There can't be that many residential properties. What is driving this change? Jack's property he sold, and the Conrad Trust property? If so, change their zoning to commercial and leave the rest alone. You caused another citywide ruckus and it wasn't necessary.
Who wrote that?
Barry Hamilton. Okay, the next one is Star Jennings. Is that person here? Okay. I know, but
Yeah, you never know.
sometimes they're
Okay.
in the audience. Hello, my name is Star Jennings and I am a resident of Martindale. I am against the proposed zoning change being discussed at today's city council meeting. Thank you, Star. And the next one is from Ravi Sarahota. Did I say that right? He says, I have received a notice regarding zoning change to certain lots along Highway 80 from mixed use to commercial. I am in favor of this change and approve the request for a zoning change to my lot 122790.
Do you want to show that? Can we show that on there?
It's right next to the moon.
Okay.
Circle.
Got it. Thanks.
Jay Daniel.
Got your gavel, Mike?
She's in charge, not me.
It's technically playing.
I apologize for you for that. I think I did publicly last time. Adrian, I apologize to you for barking at you at the River Committee meeting. Number one, I'm opposed to this. I'm opposed to anything that increases development, that increases the impervious cover. I mean, just flat, plain and simple. I worked for the city of Houston for a long time, so I'm probably the only person in here pleased if they start throwing things. Let me know. I'm not opposed to property taxes going up. I understood how I got paid for a long time. And that's the nature of investing in property. Values go up, taxes go up, services go up. I think there are better, smarter ways to do it than turn us into the Katy for San Marcos, where we're nothing but one long strip center. That's it. Pretty simple on my part. I'm opposed.
Thank you. Martin Garcia.
Good evening. I have property between the gas station and the restaurant at 28313 and 27792. It's actually two lots. First of all, I want to say it doesn't matter to me what you guys do, but what does matter to me is that the residents on the south end of 80 are no different than the residents on the north end of 80. Okay? Because their lives matter just as much as the other side. So I'm opposed to it. But like Jack said, 80 is commercial. Why aren't you picking on the north side of Highway 80?
Yep.
If you're gonna do it in one shot. Why picking pieces here and there? Because you know you can't win on the north side. So you pick on the people on the south side. I'm opposed 100%. I gain if it goes commercial. I win, but I don't care about winning. I care about what's right, and you put the votes on the people that live on this side. That's what matters to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Fredericks.
I printed out what I'm about to say. I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to speak. Kim
First,
Fred-
could you tell us what your property is?
I live in Moon Circle and I live in a mobile home.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here to voice my opposition to the proposed zoning change. The change is not about progress or growth or public safety. It is about money. Initially changing it from mixed to commercial will raise property taxes, and then later, after pushing out the residents and having a business in their place, that would create a greater tax revenue. This is also about aprophobia, the strong dislike, aversion, and hatred toward poverty and poor people. Since 2014, 9 mobile home parks have closed in San Antonio. And since 2016, 4 mobile home parks have closed in Austin, including the one on Congress Avenue, which is requiring its residents to vacate by November 1st. This is about money and that you don't like the way that we look and that you want us gone. What about the older homes in Martindale? Maybe you don't like how they look. Are they next on the chopping block? For your information, Mesquite Park and Indian Court are in the floodplain. For a business to build a parking lot, the elevation would need to come up, I'm guessing about 6 feet. And the River Road, which runs in the back of us, it turns into a wall of water. Indian Court floods more than Moon Circle. So I'm not sure how you're going to keep the river in its banks or how you're going to control the weather. Also, Moon Circle is not connected to city sewer system, so that would be a cost that would be on the city. It would make more sense to me to put a business on a plot of land that was already at the proper elevation and that is clear, has nothing on it. But then again, this is not about what makes sense. This is about money. Also, having a business on these locations would create more traffic, not less. This is not about public safety. This is about money. In regards to growth, the surrounding areas, surrounding Austin, Kyle, Round Rock, and Dripping Springs, the lower cost of living is the attraction, but moreover, the attraction is good schools. Kyle has good schools, Round Rock has good schools, Dripping Springs has good schools. Martindale, Texas, no school. If we had a good school, people from San Marcos would bring their children here and families would want to move here. My grandson goes to Valor in Austin. I thought it was a private school. The children wear uniforms. He's learning Latin in third grade. It's a charter school, K through 12. It is such a good school. If Martindale had a school, then we wouldn't have to pay double taxes like we do. Also, in regards to growth, crime goes up. What changes need to be made to address that? We had 3 murders last year. I would say crime has already increased. With the increase in population, homelessness increased. How are you going to deal with that? There's going to be a solar panel plant down the road. All those workers will be commuting to work. Martindale is close, but there's nowhere there for them to live here. An apartment complex would be a good idea. People are living longer these days, maybe some nice smaller homes or retirement community. Seems to be Martindale is just wanting to attract drunk tubers. Years ago, Martindale was dry. Y'all changed the law to attract more drunk tubers. After drinking in the river, they get into their cars and they drive drunk, endangering themselves and others. There needs to be some sobriety check stops. If the zoning change is voted in, come re-election time, these city council members need to be voted out.
Thank you. Corey, I did read your comments. Did you have any further comments?
It's just, okay, you might get a little bit more revenue for the city if we go commercial and stuff, but what you're gonna be doing is destroying the character of Martindale. And this is something just cannot be reversed once it's put in play. I mean, traffic is already horrendous on Highway 80. I mean, I avoid it as much as I can. And you're just gonna have all this runoff once again into the river, which with all this, I know we just had the new law for impervious cover and everything like that. Great idea, but it's still going to be pollutants running into the river on any kind of major storms. Traffic, that's really bad. It'll get worse. The traffic plans, just all out bad idea. Yeah. Pollution, noise pollution. We don't need more gas stations. We don't need to be a cookie cutter city where, you know, every fourth block looks the same as 4 blocks ago. We need to be unique. Martindale is a gem that we need to take care of for the future generations and keep this place just a really cool, unique place and not to become the cookie cutter of San Marcos. So that's
Thank you.
all I say.
Is there anyone else who didn't sign up who would like an opportunity to speak?
Come on up.
Ms. Hubbard?
I read through the ordinances, laws, rules, whatever it is, under 155, chapter 155, 081, 082, 096, permitted and not permitted. Okay, under mixed use, tubing is not permitted. Under commercial, tubing is permitted. Okay,
It is that what it said?
that was under.
She is correct.
She is correct.
I thought it had to be industrial.
No, she is correct.
No, straight out, whatever that ordinance or whatever that is.
Look at the tape.
Or
Not exactly. I mean, it's envisioned, but requires a special use, a special approval by city council.
Can we put the table up there? Show people the table.
I just want to make sure we're continuing with our public
Yeah,
hearing
let's
portion.
finish.
I'm
Were
sorry.
there any other public comments? Did anyone else want to speak? Yes.
Hi, I'm Laura. I just only wanted to, I guess, ask a question. Remember the whole community survey we did a couple of years ago and everybody put all this stuff about how would you grow and what do you want to see and what don't you want to see? And I feel like tonight I've heard exactly what the results of the survey were from the people sitting here. I'm wondering how is the council using that guidance to make these decisions?
That's a good question. We're going to be talking about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait, one more.
Yes.
Oh, I am a very new resident. They're still working on my house at the end of I chose to come to Martindale first because my daughter was here, second because I really like the atmosphere here. Very friendly, good people. Small area that likes who they are. And I would hate to see that changed by bringing in more businesses and more of whatever makes San Marcos and Kyle and whoever they are, who they are. I like it here. And it's pleasant and it's lovely and hope it stays that way.
Thank you.
Gets changed.
I have a name, if you don't mind sharing. I have a name, if you don't mind sharing.
Yes, Cat Fowler.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I believe that we will now close the public hearing at 7:11. And we will go into 5.1, since everybody's very interested in this, and talk about the council now. We'll talk about the request for the zoning change.
Yeah, so a little background on how we got here and where we're going. How we got here was we were engaged in a series of workshops to evaluate our zoning ordinance and to clean up definitions and remedy situations where there wasn't alignment between definitions and what was going on. So part of that process, we looked at the zoning map briefly and recognized that where we had areas zoned mixed use didn't line up with their physical geographic location on our map. Mixed use under our zoning ordinances is designed for pedestrian-centric development where people live, work, shop, eat, play, all within a defined space. Think of kind of like the square in San Marcos, or here downtown in Martindale, where we're going to have loft apartments over a restaurant, and it kind of creates a vibrant, close-knit, high-density space. Part of that mixed-use requirement or zoning regulations is tailored to that. And you'll see that reflected in what's permitted, what's not in certain things, specifically automotive uses, but other commercial enterprises. Considering mixed use located along a highway, in my mind, didn't make a lot of sense, because you're not going to have a pedestrian-centric development located along a major thoroughfare with speeds regulated at 55 miles an hour, but our police department and officers and residents in the community will tell you that 55 is probably below the norm. So we looked at what can we do to align our zoning to what makes the most economic development sense for the future. It was mentioned earlier, and you mentioned, Mayor, the community development plan, the survey that was done. Part of the things we wanted to do in that was create efficiencies and then also preserve our character. And it explicitly states in that plan that we do not want a strip mall of fast foods and other type of developments. We want to encourage locally owned businesses. Part of even with the changing of zoning from mixed use to commercial, we still maintain the scenic overlay to help maintain that character of the community and some regulatory controls over what that built environment will look like in the future. What this does, per our ordinances, there are a couple things we'll need to cover tonight. Part of them is, what might not be evident from the application. So in terms of utility services, as was indicated earlier, most of this property is not serviced by a Martindale utility service. Our wastewater does not extend past what everyone knows would be Jack Mudd's and the fire department's eventual location. Further towards San Marcos from that point, you start going downhill. If there's development envisioned in the future, that developer would likely have to put in, or if anybody for that matter wants to have a sewer access, they would need to have a lift station or some sort of pump to get the discharged wastewater up the hill and into our gravity-fed sewer system. That's kind of on the top of the hill there by Jack Mudd's. In terms of drainage, there are drainage issues along this area that flood. There's a creek that cuts through. You'll notice there's a bridge, and somewhat older bridge near the Indian Court home development area, and that it does have some floodplain hazard areas to maintain. Streets, the biggest concern I would have with this zoning change is diverting even more traffic down the Northwest River Road. And that's been a concern with past development projects that have been proposed under the scenic corridor for that area between Northwest River Road and Highway 80. I think we can try to address those issues through the scenic corridor to a degree. Won't be able to fix it completely, but it is a valid concern in my opinion. The parking, there's some ordinances that we need to refresh from the 1980s that discuss parking along Northwest River Road. I think there's an ordinance passed in 1984, 1987 that needs to be refreshed and probably repassed or reconsidered by city council that would prohibit along the street parking Northwest River Road. Other parking facilities within the commercial district, they would be limited to the newly instituted impervious cover restrictions, which I believe is 40% now. It's gone down from I think 70% to 40%, 75% to 40%, which is quite dramatic. So if you, in your mind's eye, just roughly cut a line about halfway through any of these property lines, and that's the size of the parking lot that can be filled with impervious cover. They would still have the opportunity to use other technologies or even rudimentary parking lots to maintain the perviousness of that ground cover for parking lots. But overall, if we are able to refresh that old 1987, 1984 ordinance, I don't think parking will be an issue except for the impervious cover restrictions, which are feasible to be met in other ways. Police protection and fire protection in the local areas, another thing to be covered. Being a commercial area and a fully built scenario many years down the line, if there's more businesses and there happens to be a robbery or something like that, might require more close police patrol. By the time we get to that point, we'll likely have a larger police department, so I don't think there's any concern there. And the fire department will be located within this area, so I don't have a concern there from a fire protection standpoint. Other than, I know the Water Supply Corporation has some hurdles to overcome when it comes to fire hydrants, but that's not within the city's control. That's something that's a Water Supply Corporation issue. The comment was raised earlier about taxes. I'm not a tax professional. I'm not an appraiser. My basic understanding is that taxes is based off the current use, not the zoning. So if it's an open field, it's an open field and we tax as an open field. If it's a house and it's used as a house, we tax as a house. Now, if it's a house and it's used as a business, then it might be taxed as a business. The zoning would permit the change in use by that property owner, but would not have, as far as my understanding, would not have an immediate effect on someone's property taxes. The issue of non-conforming use is a significant issue for the homes that are located in this area. So there are two site-built homes, one to the north of Indian Court, and then one just to the north of, or not to the north, towards San Marcos, the northwest, I guess, of Indian Court, and then one near Jack Mudd's property and where the fire department's going to go. Let me bring up the table. This will probably help in that discussion.
You said site build.
Yeah, so there's two what we call in our whoops, I'm sorry, I scrolled too fast. In our supplementary district regulations, we have a use table that summarizes permitted and non-permitted uses. So a single family detached home, a site-built home is a permitted use within mixed use, and it is not a permitted use within a commercial zoning district. So there could be a potential in the future if there was a significant loss to for that structure, or a remodeling activity that was more than 60% of the value of the home, of the structure, then it would lose its status as a continued non-conforming use, and they would have to conform to the new zoning. As it relates to the manufactured housing and the mobile home communities, they are currently a non-conforming use. So their status under the zoning change would not be impacted or changed. If they were to sustain a loss today, similarly, they would not be able to replace that home of that kind in that area.
They couldn't put in another mobile home
They could not put in another.
because it's an R, because it's mixed
Mixed
use.
use too, look at the table.
So if these squares where you see a P, that means permitted by right. The city really has no involvement. You own the land, you build a home, as long as you do building permits, you're good to go. If you see it.
Expand that at all, or is it about as big as it gets?
This is about as big as a screen will get, but I can scroll down and go through the rest of it.
Hide the left.
Yeah, it's not in mixed use.
So what you're saying is, under the mixed use, they couldn't even replace
Right.
it.
So if someone wanted to add an additional home on Moon Circle or Indian Court, even like as another neighbor, they would not be allowed to move in even a brand new home today if they wanted to. So that's that
Because of the
status.
structure they have on it now, not
Yes.
because it's mixed use.
Well,
Well-
because it's mixed use, it is not permitted to have a manufactured home within a mixed use district. So the stats for those two neighborhoods or communities would not change as we switch from mixed use to commercial. As the other changes in use, what we're going to be looking at are these two columns here, MU and C1. Multifamily homes, as was mentioned, are, homes that have more than 4 families, apartment buildings, or multiplex housing structures. Right now, they're only permitted with a specific use permit application approval by city council. If it was changed, with the change to commercial, those would not be allowed even under those at all.
So that could be an apartment complex?
Yeah, like an apartment complex, where now it's foreseeable that could exist with approval from city council.
But it's a special use. There has to be a whole separate hearing.
Supposed to be a whole
It
separate
has
hearing.
the whole in the process, so.
Right.
And so the multifamily, this would have to be approached in some other variance, Board of Adjustments, this scenario. So other change would be a guest house that would have been permitted on a property would not be permitted from mixed use to commercial. Status of a bed and breakfast inn would not change. A group home status would change would not be permitted in the commercial area. Boarding houses would continue their use. Loft apartments would go from a permitted use if someone wanted to build a loft apartment, which in my mind, my understanding of the loft apartment, even though it's not well-defined in our current ordinances, typically a loft apartment will be above a business or some other sort of conversion of an industrial building to apartment. Right now, if someone wanted to build loft apartments in a mixed use tomorrow, they could without any restrictions other than the scenic corridor process. Changing it to C1 would make that a specific use application permit process. Fraternity homes, home occupations would change. So home daycares would be permitted in mixed use, not permitted in commercial. Home occupations would be permitted in mixed use, not permitted in commercial. Then you'll see fraternity, sorority houses, caretaker, guard residence, farm orchard.
So the caretaker that's when you bring kids into your home to take care of.
No, so what this
It
is,
would be like a daycare center.
no, not in this case. That would, daycare center would be a commercial use. A caretaker guard residence, think of like a junk, like an old time, like a junkyard. And you have someone who lives on the property of the junkyard to make sure that no one's breaking into the junkyard and stealing parts or something.
Oh, okay.
That's, I don't know if it's that
Or if
widely
you have a
used.
mother-in-law, like
Yeah.
for someone to take care
Oh,
of a
okay.
family member.
Or James Earl Jones and Sandlot.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's in my mind, that's where I go. It's the same with the big dome. Farm ranch orchard is a permitted use. This might be an area that we look to change in the future. That's something we've discussed in our prior zoning workshops, is making that a permitted, no matter the
Commercial.
zone,
Oh, okay, yes.
across the board. And then public civic uses, churches and the like, there's no significant change other than a hospital is not currently permitted in mixed use, but would be permitted in a commercial zone. And then communication towers, I think cell phone towers, they would have to come in with a specific use permit request to be allowed. And then utilities, I think like Blue Bonnet and those, they want to have structures there, they'd be permitted to do that in commercial. Office, retail, nothing changes there. Within the restaurants, there's a slight change that where a drive-through is not permitted at all in a mixed use. Under commercial, they would be able to apply under a specific use permit for approval. And then a hotel, motel, right now they'd have to get special permission within mixed use, but in a commercial district, they would be able to just build their hotel, motel. Funeral home, not allowed in mixed use, would be allowed in commercial. Self-storage units, an interesting one. It's currently a non-conforming use in mixed use, would be permitted within the commercial area under a specific use permit. Dry cleaning, laundry would require a permit now, would be allowed by right after the change. Tool rentals or equipment, so indoor, outdoor, that status changes. Washateria changes slightly from being a specific use application to being permitted use. Bar, tavern, no change. Campgrounds would be allowed within the commercial district with a specific use permit. Sexually oriented businesses are covered under Chapter 112. And then veterinarians will be allowed to operate by permit or some other large animal veterinarians would be allowed under a specific use permit. Tubing related businesses, not allowed in mixed use, would be allowed under a specific use permit. So I would require, again, city council approval and action. And there's a number of design considerations that are attached in the zoning regulations on what that would look like and operate as. And this is where we find the biggest difference is under the automotive uses, where they are generally not allowed in any capacity under mixed use, but depending on their nature, would be allowed in either a specific use permit or permitted by right in some capacity. So the Texaco Pack and Sack at the light at 1984, that's currently a non-conforming use. If it burned down today, they could not have a gas station there tomorrow. Under this, if someone had a fuel service, they would be able to apply under a specific use permit. So it would still have to go through city council approval, zoning approval, but it would be available option. So that's where we are with what's non-conforming uses, the changes and uses as it relates to the use table. We touched on the mobile home issue. Kind of going back to the map, question was raised about what led to this area south of Highway 80 being considered not the area north. Initially, we were looking, the city council in a prior meeting, we considered also zoning the frontage of Highway 80 near the Skyview neighborhood to be commercial, but the city council at the time decided they didn't want to pursue that, so that was left off. So it was considered initially, and then we even discussed taking it commercial all the way down or carving out areas for R1 where there are existing residential neighborhoods. So that's just about it. So in the long term, what does this do? It's somewhat simple. We get inquiries about property along Highway 80. Mixed use by its nature is not well defined, except for general statements of be conform with properties that are adjacent and have it create that pedestrian centric commercial living space. It doesn't provide a lot of, other than the use table, direction for city staff to interpret what to do. Commercial would clarify what commercial practices are available, what's not, and simplify some of the procedures going forward. So that's one of the benefits of doing this. Also, I think it better captures the economic viability of that area. Like I mentioned earlier, having a pedestrian-centric development next to Highway 80 in such a confined space doesn't seem plausible, at least in my mind. So, the decision where do we go from here? Is tonight, City Council acting as the Planning and Zoning Commission would vote this up or down or modification. And then if it's approved tonight by the Planning and Zoning Commission, then it gets reheard under another public hearing again with the body sitting as a city council. So there's a 2 public hearing process to it. So this is not if the city council decides to move forward tonight, we'll have another public hearing again scheduled again in the future. If the city council chooses not to move forward with this tonight, I don't think there's any designs on making any changes, but I would suspect that we might receive the city would continue to receive inquiries and applications.
So we still have to do planning and zoning on this subject.
So
it's planning and zoning meeting on this subject.
So
and public hearing. Is that what you're saying?
The city council sitting as a planning and zoning commission makes the recommendation to the city council for approval or not. It's set up to where if there was a planning and zoning commission that operated separate, that was
Right.
of different membership than the city council members, there would be one vote there, and then the city council would consider and vote here as well. Since the same membership is the same on both, voting on the same thing twice.
Right.
So for tonight, you're operating on this issue in the capacity of the planning and zoning commission.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to vote twice.
Well, you will eventually.
Oh.
If you will vote a
If
second
we're
time,
Looking at.
but not
pursuing-
tonight. There'll be, we go through a republication process,
Okay,
the same publication process we followed previously, mailers, yard signs, newspaper mailers,
yeah,
all within a certain amount of time, publication, a public hearing, everybody would come back, would do the same song and dance, and
Oh,
we'd
okay.
consider it again.
okay, good.
If you approve it
Good.
tonight, it doesn't mean you have to approve it later. You could disapprove it
Right.
then. If you disapprove it tonight, the train stops there and it wouldn't go any further. Any questions about process or things like that?
I had a question about mixed use. So since it is between a highly traveled road on the north, 80, and Northwest Road on the south, within mixed use, is there a certain percentages of areas that could be commercialized or that would remain in a residential use? Because commercial use within mixed use close to Northwest Road, it concerns me because there are a lot of more residents on the northwest side. Of course, there are also on the north of 80, but is there any percentages relating to development in the mixed use?
Percentages in terms of density
or commercial or residents? Because certain commercial businesses are allowed in mixed use.
Yes, there's no quota or quantity limits on the number of businesses or the number of houses. The biggest change would be, as it's purely under the zoning change concept, the only properties implicated that would be impacted regarding continued non-conforming uses would be the Packensack Texaco would go from being not allowed to allowed, and then the two single-family residential detached homes, those would go from being allowed to not allowed, in terms of that non-conforming use issue. The mobile home areas, there would be non-conforming use under both zoning options.
But the mobile homes are thus almost sort of grandfathered in a way, in terms of if it was a commercial change. I mean,
well, yeah, their status as a non-conforming use would not change with the zoning change. If a flood, unfortunately, were to sweep all the houses away to tomorrow, and everybody was safe and happy and we're all okay except for the loss of property and homes, they would not be able to purchase or move in a new manufactured home into that space. They would not be allowed to.
What about
And
the
then
fire?
Same thing.
Fire,
Fire, flood. Disaster.
Oh.
Yeah.
Here's the
Any
non-conforming uses are covered in this chapter. Basically, total cost of repairs or remodels exceeding 60% of the assessed value for tax purposes. If it would exceed that value, it would not be allowed to be used again. If it was below that value, then it would be okay. But if you were to, because of the mobile nature, if you were to move one out and move one in, you can't move one in.
Right, so if you wanted to get a new mobile home, yours is too old.
Right.
But because you're in mixed use, you can't put in another mobile home because you were grandfathered in when they changed to mixed use.
Exactly.
Okay.
I want to make a comment. Reading this document and those tables, there's a lot of R1 mixed up on Northwest River Road. And looking at the table, mixed use is more compatible with R1. And you know, what I'm seeing that table, if you look at that table, almost all of it follows more to R1 compatibility than commercial. The way I looked at that table of ordinances based on that table. If you look down through it, for example, just look through it. And this, it's for, if you look, go all the way down, mixed use, C1, look at the difference. It's pretty much, and the thing about it for me, when you go to special permit, there's another hearing. You know, somebody wants to come in, say, somebody wants to make it, say, whoever wants to do their property, and they want to change it. Then they have to go back to the council, then there's another hearing, and then we can look at it on a special use permit. The change, so it could be done case by case, not a broad swath of making everything commercial. Therefore, it's piece by piece. Like Barry Hamilton made a good point about spot zoning, which is frowned upon. But I think, in my personal opinion, spot zoning would probably be a good thing for the city due to the mixed with R1 with commercial. Therefore, you might have something here that's commercial and the one next to it is mixed use. But for me, and I voted against this the first time because I think it's another step for people. The citizens have spoken, and it looks like a majority of them are against this. And I think by having this to stay the same, there's more discussion. And in my opinion, it looks more compatible to R1 mixed use compared to C1. That's my final point.
But one of the reasons why we even considered this is so that it wouldn't have to be piecemeal, okay?
I think you want it piecemeal. You know what? I think you want it piecemeal. My personal opinion, because if somebody has a residence, like that one house that's site built, they might.
Growth is gonna come.
Huh?
Growth is gonna come.
But I'm saying is it's another step. This growth's gonna come, but it's another step in the process for the citizens to do their concerns like tonight. Okay? That's my point. I was against it the first time. I voted against it. And I'm still against it. Because I think it's best to have that series of steps, because if there wasn't nothing on Highway 80, we could make it all commercial, that's fine. But there's R1 and there's people living there. And I think they need to have a voice during this process of each individual property. That's all I got to say.
You're here. There's not. So you're R1?
How many is in?
I'm 27995 on that map.
This is the current
And I'm
map.
wondering if I'm the other detached home that he's talking about when he talks about the two.
Yes, one is yours
See,
now.
that's me. See,
You know, you're
Okay,
already
and then
talking
the
about
one-
how many
and then
in
the other one.
inside that lives inside 3 or 4 residents inside the.
So the map would change what you see on the south side of Highway 80, what's currently zoned mixed use, that kind of salmon color.
That's where Sandra
Oh,
is.
yeah,
And
but
then
I have
it would
two
change to
properties there.
green, and that's the commercial.
So there's no.
But I don't,
I have two, yeah, that's not 907, they must be
Right now.
904, because the odd numbers are, the even
But
numbers
the
are on my
R1
side.
is-
So 27995 is my first property, that's where my home is. 28262
right.
is close, like, adjacent to Indian Court, that's mine. I think that's zoned mixed use, but I have no intention of putting anything, I don't like to be around people. I don't want apartments, I don't want anything, the only thing
But
that I
you're
want
right,
to put-
your home is on Highway 80.
The properties there, the entrance to my home is it's on Northwest River Road. I don't have any access from my properties to Highway 80. They both open up to 902 on River Road. I don't want anybody around me. The only thing
But
that
you're
I allow
currently
them-
mixed use, correct?
Yeah,
Yes,
You're currently mixed use.
It's north
I
of
think
that
just
area
one
that's
property,
blue.
28262 is mixed. That's what
North
I
of
was
the
told by
blue.
the county.
Mhm.
The
Right.
27995, that's I get the homestead exemption, that's where I live, that's the acre that my home is on. But the 28262 is the property that my son would like to build a home on in the very near future, because he's already been in contact with people, for my benefit.
So you were saying that you're residential, but you're not.
I don't, well, this is what the
It's
county
mixed
told me.
use. That's-
So under the mixed use, zoning code,
Mhm.
a single-family residential home
It's allowed.
is a permitted use within mixed
There
use.
you
So
go.
It is allowed.
technically not
Good for you.
R1, but she's.
There's my
permitted to
point.
have some.
But she's
You know?
not permitted, she wouldn't be
So
permitted
obvious.
to build a new one.
So in commercial.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
And come
Yes,
on,
in commercial, and that's what I want to avoid, because I want to be able to rebuild my home if something should
Yeah,
happen to it.
you're a prime
I-
example.
so
Yeah, I
then
want to
why
be able to
not
have my son
do it
build
all
it.
commercial and then piecemeal the multi-use?
Well, I'm saying the
or
other way. I'm
residential?
saying the other way.
Because
These
it's
people
not
mostly in
allowed.
R1. We're
It's-
mostly in they're surrounded by R1. So it goes case by case.
You cannot build a
I was against-
single-family home in commercial. It's blank there.
So
There's
you couldn't
nothing
build
there,
that?
so she couldn't do
I'm
that.
totally with you. I agree with
Thank
you.
you.
I totally
appreciate
agree
that.
with you. I was against this the first time. It's a,
Because
it's, these people live around that area and they're residents.
I rode my bicycle on these
There you
streets.
go. I
till
agree
was
with you.
7 years old.
I totally
Let
agree
them
with you.
decide the future of your property. How about that?
I totally agree. I agree with both of you.
And I know, I'm not, I understand that. I agree with you.
Okay.
And I sympathize with you.
But.
Well.
That's why we're having this meeting. This is why we're having the meeting.
Let's do one at a time.
Okay.
Let's do
I'm
one at
finished.
a time. Sonia, do you have an opinion?
I do. I mean, just listening to everybody talking and I mean, like whenever it's directed like you all, I take that like as directed as me. And if anybody knows me in this audience and has come to the meetings and is aware of what's going on, I wouldn't be included in that statement. You could see my shirt. It says San Marcos. I buy groceries in San Marcos. Sometimes I get gas in San Marcos. I work in San Marcos. So, but I love Martindale and I live in Martindale and I'm on the council in Martindale. So for those that are diehard Martindale, I get it. I hope you're buying your your groceries at Good Things all the time. I hope you're getting gas here at the gas stations all the time. I hope that you are going to Dollar General all the time. Now, whenever we're sitting up here as a council and we're having to go through these changes that have not been changed in the city for years. How many years was it?
I believe the current zoning code was adopted in 2008.
So 2008, all the way till now. What does that tell you? That we had council then that did the zoning change. We're in 2022, where we've gone with long periods of council not making those zoning changes. Therefore, we're having to have these discussions about the highway that's coming in. Can I finish and not be interrupted? We're having to have these discussions as a council about all the businesses that are coming in, what's coming. I mean, you have to have blinders on if you think that growth is not coming. Those are discussions that we have to have. I'm not an ostrich. My head is not in the sand, and we know we have to talk about things like that. So whenever we're having discussions, it would be very nice to have all of the citizens that are in here, like today when we're doing those 3-hour workshops, come in and let's talk about it. So I'm about solutions. I'm about like trying to find an amicable, nobody's trying to chase nobody out of their mobile homes. Nobody's trying to gentrify any neighborhood here, because you know what? If that was it, I would definitely be saying something. That's why I'm on the council. Definitely for cases like that. I'm watching, I'm taking notes, and I'm seeing what's going on. And like I said, for those of you that are active with it, you would know what's up. And those of you that don't, we'll keep informing you and come out, and we love your support. We love you being vocal. But I'm just being very realistic about what's happening. We have a Martindale citizen who has a property. Who is a property owner? How long have you lived here, Jack?
1946.
So 1946, so he sold your property, and this came about because of a convenience store that wants to be built there. You know what? This is only one scenario, and guess what? They're coming into Martindale. This isn't the only one. Get ready to come to meetings all the time, because the city hall is being flooded, inundated with applications for commercial use all up and down Martindale. So it's coming. So be ready. So I'm all about having conversations. I like having conversations, easy conversations, difficult conversations, because I believe there's glows and grows. So I'm ready to grow, and finding out about what we could do to make sure that we are following what the citizens said whenever we did. And I believe whenever we had this out and we were having those discussions, we were going by what the citizens stated, correct, with their vision plan?
Yeah, and it was part of creating efficiencies in government processes. And clarifying, working through our zoning code as one area to simplify it, make it more clear and more easily administered and passed on from one to the next. Because there's frequent issues that come up. RV parks, where does that fit in our zoning code? Is that a campground or is that a manufactured housing community? Those sort of things we were working through clarifying. This got swept up as part of that process, looking to clarify what mixed use is and where it is achievable, and recognizing that a pedestrian-centric development along Highway 80 may not be the most plausible or feasible land use for that specific spot.
And you know what, if we do the spot deciding about just spot zoning, Martindale's small. Guess who gets elected into these seats? It's like a cheerleading contest. It's whoever's popular. Guess what? Somebody might like Jack Mudd and they're going to say, yes, let's spot check. Yes, he's good. Let's go ahead and give him the thing. Our other neighbor down there, oh, he's the one, we don't like him. We're not voting. We're going to do. So it kind of clears up some of that kind of stuff that comes along with being in small towns. We sometimes don't even have people running for council or to fill a position. So I'm very grateful for my council members that come in, that do their work, that do their homework, and who are willing to make these hard decisions. So one thing that I want to say about the way that it was presented, I think because we just had the Lanzola meeting and how we just did that, with that hearing. And then we see all of these, because I was even like, oh my God, why is all this on here? Northwest River Road, all of this stuff. It makes, it kind of alludes to like, okay, they're trying to sneak some stuff in. You know what I mean? After a hearing was just done to vote everything down. So, I mean, I just think the way that it was presented, like with the timing, I know that just the timing was weird. So, I mean, are any of these properties on here Lanzola?
No, they're
already commercial.
Lanzola's properties are further to the south. They're already part of a commercial zone. So
They're already
where the zoning.
On Highway 80, they are.
Where the zoning consideration is being made. So where you see the Lanzola property is these areas here that are green. And this spans from the north of Highway 80. Here's Highway 80. It goes on both sides and south of there. That's their whole development.
So that's already commercial.
That's already commercial. The part that we're talking about rezoning is north of that.
And how far towards 142 does that commercial zoning go towards?
There, it comes down to this intersection of all the way towards 142. I think the Bagley Barns are zoned mixed use. That's another area that we recommended in the past to convert to commercial. It would have really simplified the most recent application that we had with the gentleman who's trying to convert his taco stand into a restaurant. Would have significantly simplified that procedure that was followed. That's, to answer your question directly, Sam, it goes all the way to basically the Bagley Barns. After the Dollar General, or right about the Dollar General, on down to West Ridge is again commercial.
Where all the creeks flow down from the north. Hemp Hill Creek and Morrison Creek flows through that C1 zone there, yeah.
And then I just would like to say one more thing. So then like, if I have, the property owners just see the signs on their property saying it's be considered, to be rezoned, like, and they don't even like know what's going on as far as like,
Part of why there's signs there, so they know.
They were I know, but sometimes, I mean, if something got wrong with the mail, but if they're there and then there's just a sign on their property. They,
I didn't even see a sign on my property. It was on, I don't even know if there's a sign, because I don't enter my property from Highway 80. I come down Northwest River Road, and from what I understand, the signs are on Highway 80. If it wouldn't have been for Martin, I wouldn't have known what was happening.
Yeah,
Because the
whoever
sign
You
is
didn't get a
not-
letter?
I
Whoever
did,
put
I
the
did.
signs up,
Long
they put it
after.
in the roadway, not on the fence line, and the signs were down probably a day or two after they put them up. I'll be glad to help put up the signs. I know how to put up signs. If you need to next time. And next time, can you, if you have a meeting, can you have the person who's talking pinpoint where they live or where their property is? Because we have people who read a deal from somebody from Guadalupe County. I mean,
Yeah, but they're very close to, they're right
but I
across.
thought it has to be 200 feet from.
They were given a letter.
Huh?
Yes, they were with 200 feet. They were given a letter. They're right across from like that area there. Right there.
Ma'am, you know how far that is, that one person that lives on 12 Run, or not 12?
Cottonseed Road.
Cottonseed Run? Probably.
Jack, we can't, hello? We can't force,
Yeah.
we can't force people to come and, we can't force people to identify where they live in a public meeting. Even if people beyond the limits of those given notice came and testified at a public hearing, we can never, as a condition of someone testifying, make them disclose their location in a public meeting.
I'd like to recognize Lee Rust. You had a comment?
I did from a code enforcement standpoint. Jared brought up the ordinance where it says 60%. In our code of ordinances, it also, the first flag is at 50% substantial. So what I'm referencing is, let's say worst case scenario, a resident has a water leak over a weekend of being out of town or something, and has to come in and do substantial repair to that residence. What that means is 50% of the value of that home. Okay, is the first marker. The second marker, like Jared presented, was 60%. So that is where all of a sudden, if a residential R1 hits that mark, that's when these other, if it is in the C1, that's where these others kick in as far as, whoa, this project, the city cannot sign off on that project. And so I just want to, and Jared and Adrian have, been explaining that same thing. I just want to give you the worst case scenario on that, should it be changed to C1.
Worst case scenario.
Any other questions that can help answer?
There was a few things that were mentioned in the public comments about, it seems like it's just for the money. And it's not about the money. It's about being able to have a little bit of control of what is coming and making sure that we have the right, because we know it's coming. And, making sure that we have things in place so that we're not getting tubers or nothing but parking lots all up and down our scenic corridor.
But if you change from mixed use, so if you change from mixed use to C1, if you change from mixed use to C1, you could bring tubers in. Tubing company, you're opening that door up right there. You're opening the door up. I
You're
mean,
getting rid of residences, and with mixed use, you don't have to.
Sounds like the city council is trying to get lazy with, they don't want to do mixed use applications, let's just rubber stamp it all.
Right.
And it's a commercial, so we don't have to do all this extra work. I applaud you guys, y'all are citizens and doing a great job for representing everybody, but at the same time, you kind of represent the neighbors and the people.
The people that voted for you.
Well, the majority of the people here, I think, are, how many people had gotten letters? I mean, that are actually here. I'd love to see more and more council meetings, this much participation.
Should have seen Lanzola. That was a rock and roller.
I was there.
It was a rock and roller. This is just, you mean, we got the constituents right here. They're speaking their mind. You know,
Yes, I understand.
I've already said my piece, so,
Our opinions matter as much as the people that were at the other meeting.
so.
Okay,
Well,
so
you
the
know, you don't
public
let me
hearing is
interrupt
now
you, Mike.
closed. This is for the city council. And if there are no more comments, we would entertain a motion.
I'll do it. I make a motion to deny the request for a zoning change to lots 27861, 27791, 27995, 28105, 28262, 27792, 28313, 28150, 28231, 122709, lot 45105, lot 116628, lot 116629, lot 45162, lot 28172, lot 28171, lot 37976, lot 35977 from MU to C1.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Any discussion?
We have to have a motion and a second before we get a discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, now, is there any more discussion?
I would like to know, so with it being denied, with Jack Mudd, since he is a property owner, this was brought up, because of his endeavor that he wants for his property. What does that mean for Jack Mudd?
Any property owner or groups of property owners can petition the city for zoning change of their own property. So in the process will look similar to this, in terms of public notices going out in the mail, yard signs, a newspaper, but it'd be specific to that property that's being, or properties that are being applied for.
Like a spot zoning.
Yes.
So with Jack Mudd, is his application already in? Was this brought on by his application?
We received an inquiry of,
I'm sorry,
potential-
wait up.
We received an inquiry for potential land uses. This also came up to some degree early in the conversations when we had the food truck. Anyways, but we received inquiries about the development of convenience store, possibly gas station. And based on those inquiries, we said the city council has previously been open to converting this, rezoning this structure already. Before we have a spot zoning request, let's bring that back forward to the city council and see if they want to consider that at this time. And then that's part of why we're here. The timing of it was initiated because of the most recent inquiry and knowing that the city council previously voiced an openness to rezoning. So that's what we brought it forward. As a city council or city-led zoning change versus a property owner zoning change. But they would still have the opportunity to submit an application for a zoning change, and they would have to pay the applicable fees and deposits associated with that.
I had a question about the potentiality of a sewer line running there, no matter if it is a mixed use or commercial. We are potentially also upgrading our sewer treatment plant. Who would share the costs of extending that sewer line along Northwest Road?
So right now the line stops about even with the entrance into Skyview property, more or less. And that's kind of at the top of the ridge. And so anything further towards San Marcos, from that point, they would have the property owner would have the cost of installing their pipes and pumps to connect into our sewer system.
And so
If the property owner is within so many feet, 100 feet, I don't know, I would have to go back to the code and look at it. They're required to tie in, but as of now, the only option for those property owners really is a septic system.
Septic.
On
Which is allowed on city properties, more than a half acre.
No more.
the city does not, the city specifically does not regulate septics specifically. It's county is who manages that application process for what they call basically a septic system. They have a fancy acronym. Yeah, and part of their requirements, as I understand them, is that it requires at least a half an acre to put a septic system in. Some, as you'll notice, a lot of these properties are short or possibly close to being short of the half acre lot, but I don't know, no stats on that.
Okay.
It's 1 acre.
The 1 acre.
1 acre.
County.
Okay, is there any more discussion? I think while everybody's here, and since I heard some concerns from the residents that are living in mobile homes, so even if something happened to their house, like, God forbid tomorrow or whenever, like you were stating, they would not even under the circumstances now that they would even be able to put a mobile home there.
Correct.
Right. And if any communities, or do you know of any communities or anything that has been put into place in any communities that would look, that we could look to grandfather them in?
So the only way to really do that is to zone it back into an R2, a manufactured housing community. There's also a non-conforming lot issue with those properties. You'll see on this map, they're a single property. They're not subdivided. So if they were to be all swept away, they would also run into an issue of, even if it's zoned R2, how many could be placed on that property? And it would only be one. So there are a number of substantial issues regarding those two areas in our community and how we would resolve that long term. There's some provisions for like guest house or separate houses, but lot house that doesn't include a kitchen or other facility as we look into the R2 area. So that's probably an area to be addressed if we want to retain that current land use for those properties. We probably want to work with those property owners and look at doing subdivision platting or some other method to get those into conformance if that wants to be continued use in the future.
And would we do that, or would the property owners?
It would have to be on the application of a property owner, but I'm more than willing to work with that property owner. City staff's more than willing to work with that property owner to advise them through that process and what that would look like.
So just for in the future, or to make sure that there's some kind of discussion or dialect for the future, because we may not be the same council that's here in a few years and might not have the same advocacy of trying to preserve, our residents that are here. And, with the housing standards, the way that they are. So I would just, since you've been vocal and I appreciate you coming, is please just continue that discussion with Jared and just start to get that moving. And any way that I could assist, I would be more than happy to.
Yeah, it's going to be very important that we work with the property owner at some point. We can answer some generic questions about process and things and advice under our codes, but when it comes time for application to taking some sort of action to preserve that land use, we'll need the owner of record to participate at that point.
Thank you.
Don't y'all have a mobile home?
Yeah, even this pink area is R2. That's a manufactured housing district.
There is such a thing as that, okay.
Yeah.
that's what-
Yes, it's
Yeah,
R2.
it exists, but one of the problems we have is within the Moon Circle and Indian Court. Let's take Moon Circle as an example. It's right now it's just one property. And so our zoning code has it so you have one residence per property. Other than that, you have to subdivide it to have different property areas, boundaries
Individual residents.
individually for each resident. So in order to continue, that property would have to be subdivided. And
And
then,
maybe grandfathered in, I mean, that mobile home park's been there for decades.
and your grandfather now, you can continue to use it. It's just a matter of if you sustain a significant loss, would you be able to rebuild it in the same manner that exists today? And that wouldn't be allowed.
Been there for years. Why can't they be grandfathered into whatever that pink stuff is?
Now, if you have a house, you can rebuild in mixed use.
I have a quick question, a clarification, Ms. Norman. I just need information. So how come you can't, if you're the city council and you can change it like this to that or that to this, how come you can't just change the definition of R2 to accommodate what is, what the current thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so any change at all to any portion of the zoning code goes through the same process. So even if we were to say manufactured homes are allowed within a mixed use district, that change also
Or
would
the
don't
R,
follow
no,
this.
just the R2. Just the
R2, if we want to change where it's
Change the
a
definition of R2, so
salmon,
it's not one person having one home.
that would be a significant change
But you could
through
do it.
across. Yes, anything's feasible. Anything is possible, put it that way. It would just create a lot of issues on how to manage growth and density within the city and making sure that we don't create overly dense or unsanitary conditions in
But
an
you've already got
extreme.
them already established and they've been that way established. Can't you just change your code for R2 to conform with what is currently in R2? And you don't have to expand it. You don't have to do anything else. You could just have it be however size it is.
What I would recommend city council is on that issue, if we want to address Indian Court and Moon Circle and possibly others in a similar scenario, probably would want to workshop that issue and to dive into each of the pros and cons of all the options. To the main point of the concern is city council can initiate zoning change of any nature. We happen to be focused on a map and districting. But if there's other wholesale changes we want to look at, we could, and it would follow a similar procedure as we're doing today.
Yes, I like your recommendation. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, and it's now time to vote. Sonia, how do you? So you're for the change to commercial?
No, I'm for what they said.
Deny.
Yeah. Did for their, wasn't that? What they said.
I for deny.
Sorry, let me just, for the record, of what Mike McLeod said, look at Sam.
Am I blushing?
Okay, I got it. I was just clarifying.
Oh,
And
man.
Jen, how do you vote?
A nay.
Okay. So the motion carries. We will deny the zoning change.
Thank you.
Sam
All right,
Linton.
we are
What did
now
I do?
going to go to number
Kirsten.
3. We have a presentation by Mark Pearson from Community United. And I would love it if everyone would please stay. He has a great presentation of, I believe, great interest to everyone. Did I get your name right? Did I get your name right?
Yes.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark Pearson. And the group that I work for is the name's really similar, but it's Communities Unlimited is the name of the group. I'm trying not to forget that here.
Communities Unlimited, not United.
No, but this is not the only place that has happened. And,
Sure, sure.
So I work for a nonprofit group, Communities Unlimited, that's been around about 45 years and works across 7 southern states, kind of Alabama, Tennessee, across Oklahoma and Texas. And this was a long meeting, so I tried to talk fast and somebody give me like signals if I need to go faster. That group is based in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I live in North Austin, and most of my career with that group has been working parts westward in the state. About half of it works with smaller rural communities with water, wastewater issues. And then the other part of the group has a team and had a merger of 2 nonprofits several years back. But one of those was working with small businesses and entrepreneurs, and has a community development financial institution, CDFI lending institution, that can work almost kind of doing micro loans with small businesses. And out of the 2 threads, where that water, wastewater is kind of your backbone infrastructure. And then with the idea of trying to build kind of economies and help communities kind of from the ground up, working with those small businesses and entrepreneurs. This work that we're moving into in the last several years is just doing some broader community sustainability, community development. And the best ways of doing that, the cutting edge way of doing that, they've learned, is to listen to people in their own communities instead of coming in and telling them what to do. And so the specific kind of scope of the work that we're doing here is that out of some other relationships, Martindale was included in a handful of communities in this USDA rural development that used to be the Farmers Home Administration, and does housing, and does a lot of water, wastewater, did rural electrification, rural telecom, has a long history. They did this Rural Placemaking Innovation Challenge project, where with their 40-something programs, they're kind of wanting to bring those to bear and say, kind of, how do we work nowadays in 2022 in communities? And so, what was included in that is developing a community leadership team that's somewhat informal and open group. And so that could include some of the council, but it would hopefully also include some of the people just from the community. And it's not a formal structure, appointed structure. And as we have kind of meetings with that group, there would also be some kind of, hopefully we're regularly asking the question, who's not in the room that ought to be for the conversation we're having, and pulling them in. And the intent is that group would be diverse and look like the whole community. And so diverse in age and gender and ethnicity, and look like all parts of the community. And also kind of written within the scope of that work were a few good ideas kind of from far away. And one of those is enhanced broadband access, because there's a lot of federal broadband funding coming down. In some ways, y'all are sitting a little bit better than other places, but I think we want to ask and look at that and assess if there are any opportunities not to be missed. One was conversion of abandoned properties. Sometimes with older communities, if you have some houses boarded up or properties in a certain condition, like, is there something that could be done that's good, and like forward moving with those. Looking at recreational spaces, which y'all have in some very special ways. The other communities I'm working in do not have a river committee already.
We need a regional park, my friend. Help me with this.
So this is, okay, and then the last one is supporting quality of life businesses also, which y'all have some good elements of started here. We brought kind of wife and kids came down to a little bit of Tammy Fest a weekend ago. Y'all are doing really good community making, and like having this space for people to gather, have coffee and connect is part of like where innovation happens.
Have you seen that river down there?
I have.
It's crystal clear in the wintertime. It's
Wow.
10 miles from the headwaters. This place is a jewel in the rough. So it's got such, well, I'll let you continue. I'm sorry, Peter.
So I think, and it feels kind of timely from having kind of been around. I think I met with the mayor and Adrian the day after one of your last larger zoning conversations. And I'm not a land use expert. And so, and these kind of conversations make you realize why there are people with that expertise. But also you need to be able to have those conversations in a way that everybody in the room can like have input and ask questions and put ideas forward. And so next Tuesday, I think we're having a first meeting. It's an open meeting for community engagement, and would welcome anyone that had interest in that. In a minute, I'll circulate a sheet, and no one's compelled to, but if you know that you're interested in participating in this, and anybody wants to sign a name and put an email on there, feel free to do so. I'm gonna grab my card, or I'll stick around since you. So we'll start that, having monthly meetings, but having just monthly meetings doesn't actually necessarily get the work done. The work gets kind of done between those meetings, and then that's a little bit of discussion and moving forward. And so as things get going, we may have like some committees that can kind of work on certain areas out of that. Also, as was mentioned earlier, some of that Envision Martindale strategic plan that was done just 2 years ago, or
Yeah, it's about 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago, is really like a good run at the same work. And so I think that group would want to pull that out and just kind of assess where we are versus the other got ideas that have already been put on the table. And there are some things that are the purview of how things work of the city council. And so that group could kind of bring ideas back to the council if that's things in the city powers. There are other things that if you're kind of free to run and outside of that, and people have good ideas and want to do outreach or connect or apply from grants or something, that can happen separately. And kind of, I think two last kind of things to tie that off is kind of that when you have good community vision behind something, that's pretty compelling. And there's a lot of resources flowing right now, whether it's federal or state resources, or even just some of the private philanthropy dollars, that if you have communities that are wanting to work issues together, I think there's kind of resources out there if you've kind of stated that and have that direction. So I think that's some of the ideas. So doing really good listening, and as a group, you all kind of working towards what you want to do, whether it's around park spaces or other things. The handouts only overlap with a little bit part of this, but those that I shared are mainly about that entrepreneurship team and small business team. And then also some of that small business lending. And then there's some free 1 hour on Thursdays webinars that team is doing, that if people have small businesses, or if you know people that are in local small businesses, they're kind of ground up Martindale businesses, that it would benefit from that. When I think back family history, the various cafes that were owned over the years, the barbecue places, nobody had any business training before they went into those. They just were figuring it out. And so the idea with this is that just kind of bring resources. If people want to have some good conversation or talk through something, they may not need a loan. They may just need a good conversation with somebody how to manage cash flow a little differently, or how to manage inventory differently. People that have seen some different scenarios go through that sort of thing, or how to do marketing, or we've got this open. How do we do a better digital marketing or a website or get the word out? And so just some opportunities. I kind of want to mention that up front, just so that we're making use of that over the next year. And if you have ideas to refer to that, feel free to either use those flyers, hand them off. I'll share a PDF of those that we can go out to the council, or to just directly, if folks want to call me or email me, or kind of make a warm handoff of those, do that as well. So that's kind of a bunch there. But if somebody's listening, it feels like timely to some of the discussions that where y'all sit in one of the two fastest growing counties in the United States, I think.
Hayes
I
County.
think that's what I've heard.
Hayes and Comal.
Or is it Comal and not?
It's Hayes County.
Hayes is a big one. I don't know if Caldwell's in it yet.
It's
It's
common.
If you're not, it's not. You're next to that. But
County lines.
I think so.
That way.
Yeah. So I think some of that question is like, where change is happening and there's large economic pressures. Some of that is like, how do you create and like have that vision for what do you want to retain? What do you want to keep? Like,
well, we're kind of, I want to keep pushing this, but we're very unique here in Martindale because we got a beautiful spring-fed river. This is not Pflugerville, not Maxwell. We've got almost, hey, we're a special place, and I say this is why I don't know why you guys came here, but I came here for the river, and that's what the focal point of the city is. So
So I would welcome participation from whoever wants to.
Mike has
Those
talked,
are- be there.
Mike has been very active in the conversation, so I think he would be perfect. He's very opinionated.
Oh, I'm very opinionated. Either you love me or you hate me.
Councilman McLeod, you're welcome.
I'm gonna sign your name down.
And I think we will make sure we post notice because council are participating in that. And I think the thing we need to be careful is just that it is like informative and discussion, and then watching it, y'all aren't deliberating stuff that's city business. But we'll post it, so it's not being done separate. It's, all those meetings are open. We will.
On the bulletin board.
It's in the utility bill too.
Yeah.
It's on the front and back of the utility bill.
Yes,
Yes.
the one that just went out like
So it's in-
2 days ago.
It's an open meeting. I think this is what he put on the utility. bill.
Went out on Monday.
I'll be around later if anybody has questions. But
Sorry for interrupting.
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Mark.
I
Thank you,
apologize.
Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, his presentation kind of leads us into the mayor's report, which is actually Adrian's report in the most part, so.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, so I'd like to start off that the reason why we're kind of going off this 4.1 item, 1A, is we recently just came back from a training with TML or conference, and we're aligning our strategies with at the city administrative level with the community master plan.
What's TML?
TML is the Texas Municipal League. Thank you. So Jared, if you would go down to page 12 or 11. This might be familiar to some people in the audience. Right now, we're at the half-life of the master plan or the comprehensive strategic plan. If you go down, the city of Martindale, since the adoption of the strategic plan, has in the past supported the library, has financially supported the library, expanded the enforcement of the city codes and ordinances, has fostered community relationships, sponsored city events, promoting inclusivity, celebrate the city's history and diversity, encourage volunteerism. Additionally, has also sponsored other city events, seasonally, quarterly, such as civic events like Tammy Fest, for instance, that we just had a few weeks ago. Also has significantly, well, we'll say have reduced the animal issues in the city. We have received less reports on animal control lately in the city hall. That's page 13.
Yesterday.
Until yesterday, you're right. Thankfully, we have a police officer on duty who's been really trying to control the animal issue going on. That we adopted the dark sky ordinance, and so that's one of the strategic priorities of community master plan or community strategic plan. We improve the city's efficiency with permitting, having a building official and spreading that task among city staff. We've, as you guys know, we've been monitoring the planning and zoning ordinances, given land use and building codes. And I'm just following the axis, the right axis. We've been promoting local businesses. We've supported the River Cafe's annual anniversary type of thing, and 4th of July, which has been on sponsorship as well. We have also expanded our police force to 3 full-time officers and 1 reserve. We have also improved the convenience, automation, and customer service experience on the utility billing. We now offer auto pay, which was a big push in the past. It has actually significantly reduced the amount of late fees issued to the city. About 10%, 15% of our city's utility customers are now registered on auto pay. We also expanded with our community outreach. Obviously, you guys are here. Posting on the website, on the mailers, having notes from the mayor. We've been top of it and trying to keep that consistent throughout our methods of notification. As well, we'll discuss the automated payment, expanded police coverage, and the nights and weekends. Now we have, I believe, full coverage. At least there's one officer on duty at all times. Reduction perceived lack of enforcement of ordinances. Lee has consistently been providing monthly reports of code enforcement, and also our chief of police as well has also been providing the violations going on in the city monthly on a monthly basis. As well, we have public notices and information posted online. If you look in the documents tab, you'll be able to find many of the public notices and agendas for the city council meetings. And the lag time addressing complaints and requests. Now we've had the mayor, city administrator, building official, police chief, and myself addressing those complaints and concerns. Now, those are all the strategies that we have addressed since 2020, but we have many more to go through. If you look on the city's webpage, you'll find this agenda and find the missing slots. And starting from since 2020, we'll still continue to meet those strategic priorities that the city has received from the community.
This is on the website.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, if you go to, see if I can get us, so on.
Yeah.
From our homepage, if you tab over government, you'll see the Envision Martindale 2025 Community Strategic Plan. It provides the plan here, and you can review that. And we also have the future year spend plan, but I don't think it's published yet. We can add it to this website.
And to view the whole plan, you click the link on the image. And that shows you all the priorities that the city has received from the community in the year of 2020. And we've been addressing them as we go.
And we'd like to have our boards and ordinances, our boards and our advisory boards start to follow the Envision plan so that we're all kind of moving in the same direction. And if they advise us using this is the closest thing we have to a vision. Because what we're kind of seeing now with the community, that they're coming out and letting us know which direction they want the city to go. I'm hoping that many of you will sign up to join this group to help us. It'd be like a steering committee to help us see where the city should go. And we are applying for a grant to redo this whole plan too.
Well,
to
yeah,
renew it.
even with this is kind of a 5-year vision. We're looking at a master plan that would go through a very in-depth study, looking at 20 years out, and what the future might look like in terms of infrastructure requirements and diving deeper into those issues. So hopefully we get that grant.
So still
Yeah.
have that
It's in-
small town feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Oh,
Thank you, Mayor and Adrian.
And as you said, you wanted the boards to start following this. Are they gonna have access to this template?
So right now it's posted online. However, we've been working with, right now we're working with is providing better access to this document and always referring our policy decisions to this document as well. And so a big point of this item is that establishing the fact that when we're making policy decisions, that we're going to align them to this, including the boards.
Been sitting in on all of the board meetings.
Okay.
So it really helps a lot.
For that continuity.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to the city administrator report, code enforcement.
Yeah, it's in your packet. Let me know if you have any questions. I don't have anything much to add on that. I think it's the number of notices and things. I will say that we're continuing to work with our city attorney to take action or make progress on some of the properties that are inhabitable, and getting those remediated, but that's going to be a long-term process. That's going to take a year, maybe two to see the fruition, but we're making progress on that. And
Take a year or two?
before, yeah, so there's, anytime you have properties involved and you're taking a legal action against the property owner regarding the state of the property, you have to provide them a fair opportunity to due process, and part of that due process is giving them enough advance notice, and going through the hearings and trial, whatever that would be. So, we're just starting that out in the last month or two of preparing those filings, and we'll make progress on that in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, that Clark building took forever.
Yeah, I think the city started action to when it started getting fixed, what, 3-4 years?
Oh, yeah, it was a long time.
Hopefully these don't take quite as long.
What was that?
Hopefully some of this might spur those property owners to reconsider buyout opportunities.
Exactly.
That'd be a great avenue for them to remove themselves of that burden. But we still need to make that pursuit on getting those remediated. Just been far too long that they've sat vacant and become a danger to the community.
Right there beneath substantial structures actively working 9, warning notice completed 6. Is that in regard to the structures?
I'll let Lee answer that. I believe they're different, but
They are, that is our yellow card notices. They go out where I provide a 10-day notice of violation. Whether that is burning of plastic material in a brush pile or, yeah, it's kind of it's a friendly warning that the resident's home, I visit with them. If not, I tend to leave a copy of the ordinance that's in violation. It has a little yellow card. Front has English on it, the back has Spanish.
Can you give me a couple more examples of a warning notice other than burning plastic in a?
Low limbs. That warning notice is used also to inform a resident or a property owner that a permit is required. So I will staple my card along with the application, whatever that application speaks will be stapled to that and left with the property owner.
Okay, thank you.
The nuisance vehicle, is that just a parked car?
That could be something, that could be anything from parked in the right of way to a vehicle that I have seen that hasn't been moved for 3 months, or grass growing up, or it ends up being a rodent infestation issue with the neighbors, haven for snakes.
it's defined what a nuisance vehicle is in our ordinance. I can provide you a copy of that.
Are our cars back there nuisance vehicles?
They're on the verge.
Because like, have we seen the backyard? Like, so, like, I would like to wait, like, to scratch that until we take care of our stuff.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah, I've been asking about those vehicles for a considerable amount of time myself. To consolidate them, sell them, scrap them, anything.
Yeah.
Martindale Demolition Derby.
I'd say
Was that State Triangle?
put a motor in it.
We'll take them bundle the parts and bash them into each other.
I was just
raise money.
wondering,
It's a new gravel lot.
I was thinking, was that us?
Yeah.
Who got that
It could've
ticket?
Did the mayor get it?
So for example, to kind of elaborate on what Sam was kind of going, October was Fire Prevention Month. So the city, part of my budget, we went out and bought smoke detectors and provided them free to residents. With November being Texas Arbor Day on November 4th, I'll be signing up Martindale residents to receive a free bur oak seedling. Under code enforcement, we're working with Adrian and Jared to update our applications as far as our permit applications. Continue to clean up residential rubbish and burning of plastic. Here recently this month, that has been a big, we've seen a jump in that as far as having a brush pile and a, burning of plastic or anything non-wood material in that pile. So, that's been going on. We're gonna be working together. Council will hopefully see a proposed green tag ordinance. And we can talk more on that once we present that to you. Another one that we're looking at is a proposed riverbank riparian footage ordinance. Where we all know that BFE has to do with evaluations, right? 2-foot base flood evaluation when it comes to the permitting process. What I'd like to present to council will be a new ordinance regarding the number of feet from that riparian zone to also include that. So you're kind of getting the X and the Y axis on what you can do. And I think that'll help the city and property owners to better understand what is required within that riparian zone and so many feet from that bank area. So another thing on the floodplain administrator side of things is I'm researching and going to be looking at presenting you with several different conservation societies proposal to actually GIS map our section of the river. And that would provide a 360-degree view of the river. This was done back in 2017, hasn't been done since. So, as someone that kayaks the river, just like many in here, that is something I use as floodplain administrator and code enforcement, right? As far as what needs to be cleaned up along the river. So, we'll be keeping you up to date on that.
Thank you.
Wow. Lee, is there any way, you know how Eagle View was doing the few aerials? Do you know, have we gotten an aerial of Martindale, since that's a service that's free to us and that we're able to utilize? I don't know when is the last time we got it, but if it is free, can we do it?
Yeah, it's not free. The city does, the city does pay a portion of that fee to utilize that service. It does good on an aerial view, where it kind of gets into some room for improvement is based off kind of when Jared zooms in on a map to show council something. As we zoom in on Eagle View, it tends to show different years. It's not that same year as I get closer in on a property. So if I'm doing a calculation, someone did an addition onto their house, and I use Eagle View to go in to map that new addition as far as coming up with the square footage. As I zoom in and get closer to it, sometimes that structure is not there because it is as I zoom in, it's a prior year photo. I hope that answered your question.
Since we have P and Z on there, can we ask about that quickly?
In terms of upcoming planning and zoning issues or applications? Sure. So the first one, this is the plat application that was initially submitted, and when we were going through the public hearing process, they wanted to retract their application to make modifications. We're expecting that to come back. The 401 Crockett Street. This is also the final plat. We're just waiting on final payment before we finalize our processing of that approved plat, or the plat that was approved by city council, I should say. And then I believe the other one is conversations that we're having about a potential application for another subdivision application. And I think we're still waiting on the documentation on that. So it's
And that one, the 601, that dream subdivision, that one is part of, not Lanzola, but something kind of like it.
It's the owners of Lanzola doing a river frontage subdivision into multiple lots. You've likely seen some concept plans regarding that to this point, but it was that river frontage those river frontage properties were not part of the development agreement.
Gotcha.
That was proposed, that was considered a few weeks ago. So this is that area where there's been some earthwork being done. And so we expect them to come in with a subdivision application that is complete and meets all the requirements of that mapping plan. Good there. Those are the things we know of. There's some other development agreements kind of floating out there.
What about the RV?
What are?
Go, the future RV park.
Okay, so
Oh.
this is out in the Westridge area. Someone approached us with an interest of doing an RV park facility, and that would require a specific use application, possibly be rezoning. We've had initial discussions with that property owner and haven't really heard anything for a number of weeks, almost months. Yeah. So it's something that's on our radar, but nothing that's happened.
Nothing's followed.
Was that where that other RV park wanted to build?
It's very near there, but we get a question about an RV park somewhere in the city about once every 6 months, so. Well, sure, we'll get more questions in the future. If you see a large blank spot of grass, someone's going to come asking about it.
All right.
Any other questions?
Anything else at the bottom there, since we're looking at the whole thing? Sonia, that last part there, is there anything?
Why do you call me out, man? I've been asking
Because
everything.
you made it
You want
available.
me to ask? You can't ask.
Well, I just,
Come
okay,
on.
new
Okay,
sign
yeah.
and, that's it. We're done. Thank you.
Good for the court?
All right, we're ready for the court report.
I don't know if Judge is with us, but if there's
Won't be
any
able to make
questions,
it today.
I can take those.
Wake him
I
up.
don't think he is.
Yeah.
I
Oh, he's
think-
not, okay.
No, he just left this report.
If there's any questions, I can help facilitate getting those resolved.
No, looks like they're working on it.
I'll tell you what, on Mondays and Tuesdays, there's a parade of people coming to the court.
You better slow down through Martindale. Better go.
Mhm.
Well, let's be careful with that.
No, I mean, we're not speed trap.
All right.
It's legit.
Just making sure.
No.
We learned our
We learned our
lesson.
lesson.
Got a little history there.
That's way before my time.
It's now city council.
Okay, is there any other question? Are there any questions on the court report? Okay, then we'll move on to the financial report.
We got money.
Here you see our bank balances
Slim.
as of October 18th, a couple of days ago. $247,000 at First Lockhart Bank. Largest part of the money is in the Community Development Fund, which is part of the American Rescue Plan. That money came in the first part of September. And I thought it was interesting. Maybe it was actually first part of October.
Recent, it's really recent.
And it's funny, none of it is in the current fiscal year. Some of it came in the last year and some of it came in the first week of this year.
Oh,
So
Huh.
when it's kind of straddled last year. But anyway, you see the funds there. The emergency fund has $223,000 in it. Below the PFIA fund, you see the other half of that community development money or ARPA money right there. You see the general fund overflow at $183,000. I assume the property tax revenue will start coming. I don't know. I noticed my Hayes County tax statement online this morning. I assume they're going to start coming out here soon too. So anyway, you see 40,000 in the hotel tax fund. You see what's left of the restricted child safety fees that we didn't spend earlier on the little event. And so total of 407,000, nearly 408,000 in the PFIA fund. And then you see the amount due the comptroller for excess fines. Still at about 300,000. I'll ask how much that was at one time. I think the last meeting, it was well over $500,000 as far as records go back. But the records that I have access to only go back 10 years. And it goes back further than that. But anyway, that's the cash balances. This is right here looks like the utility fund report. This is for the entire fiscal year ended September 2022. You see the total income in the utility fund, 321,000, 100% of budget. So looks like that happened just as expected. The expenses are about $15,000 over budget for the year. You see wastewater plant spent over budget there, and then up in the sewer system repair, that's more like around town kind of repairs. But you know, anything else like the you see the contract with a solid waste provider within $120 that came through right as expected. So if you go up a little bit to the bottom line, you'll see spent about $13,000 more than we brought in the utility fund last year because of those repairs. Let's see what else. There's monies that were spent last month. Here's the general fund. You see property tax revenue, $353,876 within $400 of plan. So that came through as expected. Municipal court revenue, you see that has made a significant increase over the past few months. It's at 72% of plan. It was below half for a long
About bacon.
What?
This is through September.
Yeah. So
3 months, okay.
see the sales tax revenue, very strong, 115,000 versus 72. And
That include the transfer to the,
you should. Yeah, it does. So if you want to take 20% out of that, you're still ahead of budget.
Yeah.
If you want to, because some of that money is specifically earmarked to road improvement. So total revenue, $597,000 versus a budget of $555. Personnel expenses, $360 versus $346. So that ended up a few percentage points ahead of or over budget for the year. Operating expenses, 81,000 versus 84. So that's within tolerance. And then down the contracted total, 194,000 versus 160, with the big budget busters there being what? Legal fees and IT fees were more than expected, but still spent 22,000 less than came in for the year, the general fund. And here's expenditures for September. to checks this month, I guess. Okay, here's a few bills that were outstanding as of the day of the report, but nothing past due. Special revenue funds. So see here, 44,000 in special revenue funds for things like streets, hotel taxes, various court related expenses that have restrictions on them. And you see, it looks like we spent, of the 44,000 we brought in, we spent 18. So those funds are retained. Oh, and here's yeah, this is where I noticed in this community development fund report, you notice none of that American Rescue Plan money is in this because it came in just before the start of this fiscal year and then just after. This money that this money you see right here has to do with the Northwest River Road project. And we made one draw on that grant to basically fund the planning of it, I think, of it. So that's what's happened in the grant fund for the year, just that one expenditure. So that's that. And we're already off to the new fiscal year.
How did they fund?
What?
And one expenditure.
Yeah.
Expenditure.
I mean, it went to two or three different vendors, I think, but it was just one draw. And
I just want to thank the city in terms of this fiscal year of out of our park budget, purchasing 18 yards of engineered wood fiber and fall protection mulch for the playground. And so our playgrounds have been remulched and they look great. And so I thank the city and the Friends of the Park and myself that managed to spread the mulch in the playground. So if you have a chance, go check out the playground. They've been remulched and it looks great. Thank you.
now, the other day I said, don't tell Sam, but he didn't spend $120 of his budget.
He tried.
But yeah, we whittled it down pretty far there. So it's great. Thank you.
Good job, Sam.
Okay, that's the financial report for the end of September.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the Chief of Police for the
All right,
report
Chief, what do you got?
for September.
Thank you. We had a glitch in our system between Adrian and I, and we couldn't get this thing.
Here,
Oh,
here's an extra-
okay.
here's an extra sheet. Here, pass that. Well, no,
No,
there's two of them.
Oh,
I think.
oh, there is two.
Two.
All right. Well, you did it.
So this past month, we wrote 114 citations and 46 warnings. Most of those were, I have them all listed on there, the different violations, alcohol violations, city ordinance violations, and so forth. We wrote 100 speeding tickets exactly. I don't know how that came out to exactly.
What's your record? What's your record?
100.
What is your 100 miles an hour?
No, I got, it'd be on next month's, but I think 96 was the high for, I got a young lady Sunday night at 101 through the 50 mile an hour going up there in front of Dollar General.
Man,
They do drive fast through there, and you know, everything that was being said earlier tonight, I was listening to everything said. It's 80s a speed zone through there, especially college kids coming back. They're trying to get back home or back to the college in nighttime. So we talked to them.
Talk to him.
You know, we write a bunch of warnings too, so, you know, we're not out there trying to just educate them as well. So, on the activities there, you see some of the activities we had. The calls for service, we had 18 calls for service. We're still checking the parks going there. We checked the parks 81 times in the past month, you know, going down, checking all the parks and so forth. We had 5 animal calls. We're getting a lot of animals. We need to write some citations for those. I know coming up, but we've been transporting a lot of animals over to Lockhart. two or three things about that. One, we don't have a good way to transport them. We gotta stick them in a patrol car
Oh,
and
man.
transport them. And, and they throw up, they use the bathroom in the car. And so
Yeah.
it takes us down for a couple of hours to clean all that stuff. So, trying to think of a way to be able to do that, and take care of that and but we transported 5 over there last month and we've already done 6 this month. So it's getting up.
Are people dumping animals?
Just animals running at large or just, yes, probably so. But, we haven't had no vicious animals. It's been animals that we're getting, some bunch of dogs. That's pretty much it. I heard you say about the vehicles back there. I moved them, I move them like every 2 months, but I put them back in the same spot. So it does no good because I really don't have much room to put them back there. So I gotta figure something out. I'll start spinning around in circles or something and putting them in backwards or do something. We don't.
But
right
they,
now, I'm trying to
so
find
they
some-
run, they run?
One runs, one does not. You have to physically pull the one.
You better get somebody to
Never get that power
push
That's
you.
what we do, so.
For
That
sale,
one,
so.
but that one that does not run has the better interior, so we want to try to make one vehicle out of both of those. We just got to find the money and the time to get a mechanic to come and look at that and give us a quote.
So if you know someone in the neighborhood that's willing to volunteer some time or give us some very competitive rates, we'll take the help.
Yeah.
That's what we're at with those vehicles. I know that they're eyesore and that one gets bad because of that tree right there where it's parked under. So I do know we do try to move them around. So we're not in violation of this. Guy said that same thing to the mayor and to Lee whenever they wanted us to go enforce one. So we got these. So-
Yeah, thank you, Tommy.
Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you were just talking about animal control. What happens with animals that are killed on the road? Like who do you call to report that?
Well, it just depends on which road you're talking about. So like you're saying a deer gets struck on that 80. So-
There was like a dog right in the middle of 110 and then like, I don't know, a little bit down from that because I don't know distance or numbers. There was also a deer.
So what we'll try to do is we'll try to remove them to the side of the road and let the nature take its course. Or
Oh.
TxDOT will come by and pick them up.
TxDOT would
Yes,
be who picks
on 80, on the city streets.
On the
We'll try to get them out of the way. We get them off there. Right.
Like there, no, it's gonna sound silly, but there was a giant armadillo that died on my front lawn. I didn't do it. I thought maybe it probably got hit by a car and it just kind of wandered into my yard. But then I didn't know, like, is there like an animal control officer or somebody that you're supposed to call?
Not that it'll pick up something deceased. If you call us, we'll come by and try to dispose of it in your trash can or something. That's the best we can do. Best thing to do is like say, let nature take its course and it'll be gone pretty
Not on
quick.
my front lawn.
I understand. Yeah, it's a pretty quick process, but you're still.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Hey, Chief, I wanted to ask you because like I go through over there Skull Road. And you know how like the proximity, how close it is like to Martindale. But the other night there was like a vehicle and it was like turned over. And then we ended up stopping and trying to see if somebody was in there because nobody else was around. And thankfully nobody was in the vehicle, but it was like a bad accident. And then like there was another instance where there was another car right there on Skull and like the car was like turned over in the field. And like, I know that that's Guadalupe County, but since it's so close to here, like whenever there's a call coming from Guadalupe and then like if something's coming to Martindale or something like, are you hearing
So
that?
we don't have, our radio system don't communicate with Guadalupe County. So we only communicate with Caldwell County. I would like for us to be able to communicate with Guadalupe County, but that would be an expensive radio to do both, right? So we don't. Now, if something's coming, it's an emergency and a pursuit, something major, some kind of crime that is leaving from there, from Guadalupe and coming this way, they will call us and let us know. They'll call Caldwell County and Caldwell County Dispatch will put it out for us. So, but we cannot communicate with Guadalupe unless we do it by phone.
I know we have a certain percentage of our monies for training, say, is there any training on our new officers that you would like to have them have or?
Yes, sir. I'm working on that. Right now, we have one. I'm going to training with Adrian on some open record stuff so we can get our records, our records retention, so we can get rid of our police records and so forth. And I'm looking at a firearms instructor course for one of the officers. I think I'm gonna send Rick to that. And then
What course?
firearms instructor, we all have to qualify.
Oh, okay.
It's a rule that we have to qualify, actually law. So we need a firearms instructor amongst ourselves. We don't have one. But right now, we're gonna just, probably this year, we're gonna go out and get it qualified elsewhere, that another agency qualifies. But then for the future, and that takes some time and money as well, because you gotta provide the weapons, you gotta provide the ammo, and a lot of ammo to go through the course. So that's one thing I'm looking at. And we're looking at getting some training. It's free. They're gonna come here and do it. But on our accident reporting system, that we all get trained on that, so we don't have to go through open records. People can just go straight to TxDOT and get the records, so they don't have to keep calling us and providing crash reports and so forth.
Okay.
That's where we are on that.
We've got several $1,000s in that training account of yours too.
Yes, sir.
So there for you to spend.
And there's some mandatory training coming up that's required by state law. So we'll watch it, what the legislature does this time, especially with school shootings and so forth. Even though we don't have a school here, I'm sure they're going to make some mandated requirements, some training requirements that we're going to have to watch for. Probably be the closest, and then, further out.
So when we have a DUI, say, just quickly, what happens? Do you take the person to Lockhart and pound the vehicle, or what's the skinny on the process of that?
Every one of those is different, right? So if there's a crash involved, if there's something involved, so I'll just give you one where if a crash is involved. If there's a crash involved, we got to take them to Luling to get medically cleared before the jail will accept them. Then we take them to the jail, and then there's the process there at the jail that we go through.
Luling.
We have to take them to the hospital in Luling, get them medically cleared. Trust me, it's quicker than going to San Marcos. That process takes a while there, and then back over to Lockhart before that's where we have to take them.
Okay.
And then if it's a regular arrest, we've made some arrests. You just pull them over. If there's nothing going on with it, you just do your sobriety test and then take them straight to Lockhart.
Leave their car there? Or
No, we haul the car off. We have a record. We call for the rotation record service, and whatever records on rotation, we'll come there and pick up the vehicle.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate y'all's support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 5.2. In December, I'm suggesting we just have one meeting. Last year, we thought we wanted to have two, and it ended up we only had one. I think it's better for everybody's planning for the holiday season if they know what the schedule is. The normal meeting would be on the 1st and the 15th. And so I thought, let's take the middle and do the 8th.
Okay.
What do you think?
Looks good to me.
Mhm. Yeah, because people are going to start going on Christmas or going away or something.
And if needed, we could always call a special meeting.
Yeah.
Does that need a motion or?
Yes.
I'll
Go
make a
for it.
motion to accept, to amend the bi-weekly regular Martindale City Council schedule in the month of December to meet December 8th, 2022.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we
I
have-
second.
Go for it, Jane.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now if Jared's baby comes, he'll get more time.
Money. That's right.
Okay, and so now we're gonna move on to our last item of discussion, the American Recovery Plan Act.
Yeah, so want to present to the city council tonight a plan for the use of the American Recovery Plan Act state and local fiscal recovery funds. Basically, this is the federal funding that Dwayne made reference to earlier in the budget, and something we've discussed on the periphery on some previous meetings. So Quickly orient everybody. Background, the federal government allocated funds for municipal governments under the American Recovery Plan Act. There are different funds. The funds that we received are known as state and local fiscal recovery funds. The city of Martindale has received approximately $305,000. Those funds expire at the end of fiscal year 24, as I understand it. And under the federal rules, the funds in the amount that we received are considered lost revenue and available to fund government services. So as we mentioned this at prior city council meetings, but at one point there was a restriction to very defined items you can spend money on. They reduced, that restriction only applies if you received over $10 million. So if you received less, you can kind of take a, similar to a standard deduction, just call it lost revenue. And we just fill out a report, and that's what we say we used it for. But since these funds are separate from our annual budget, want to make sure I proposed a spend plan that for city council's review and consideration and hopefully approval or modifications if you have any. So of that spend plan, I'm looking to fund a number of items. Some of it we've already spent, made reference to spending in the previously, such as the new iPads that we have tonight. Want to allocate $190,000 to wastewater system repairs. What that would cover are full upgrades to our electrical systems, the pump control panels, the transfer switches that exist to automate where power is going to any one time. Pete's here to correct me when I say something dumb or wrong. But that's especially important in places where, like Crockett Lift Station, it will help us change over from generator or from direct power to generator power if we lose power, which happens more frequently than we would like. Problem is our generators, we don't know it's on the fritz until we go down there and switch it on, and then we find out it's on the fritz. An upgraded automatic transfer switch would cycle that generator on a routine basis and let us know when it's not working. Also, variable frequency drives. These are special pieces of equipment that go on our pumps. Our pumps are, $10,000 or possibly, more to get these things installed and cost, depending on their size and what's going on. But high dollar value items, very critical to our system. These variable frequency drives help clean the power and save the motors if we end up with brownouts or spikes in power. It's something that are desperately needed. And then we're also looking at upgrading electric services and surge protection devices. And there's some other items that are called for in a report that we hired our engineer to look at in January 2021. The price listed is the price that's in the report. As we all know, in the last year and a half, 2 years, prices have changed significantly. So you'll see at the end of this list of spend plan items, a reserve for inflation and other costs that might not be accounted for in our previously quoted prices. The other item within the wastewater system repairs, about $28,000 set aside for lift station, Crockett Lift Station elbow pipe replacement. This is the pipe that we received quotes on last spring, where we have in Crockett Lift Station, as some of the council may recall, that's our main lift station. And so everything eventually funnels its way to this one lift station, which pumps all the stuff up to the treatment plant. And if that lift station goes down, we're in a world of hurt. Or if any lift station goes down, we're in a world of hurt, but especially when that one goes down.
At the very end of the street.
At the very end of Crockett Street. So almost at least once a year over the last number of years, we've had something go wrong. And it's a $10,000 bill or more to have a truck sit out here and pump stuff out of a hole and haul it away and dump it somewhere else because our lift station's broke. So what's happening here is we have two pumps that go into two pipes that eventually send the stuff up to the top of the hill in our treatment plant. The two pumps are okay, mostly, but one of the pipes is broken. So we're effectively just working off just one pipe, which means we're working off of more or less just one pump. So one little thing goes wrong, we're dead. So we wanted to wait on these funds to come in before we proceeded with that repair. And when we do this, we're going to look to replace both pipes, get the both brand new. If one's cracked, the other one might crack soon, and let's just get them both remediated while we're down there. And this is it's a pretty involved process because you have to stick a guy down a large hole with a hazmat gear. I don't know if he's dressed up like Scuba Steve, but in my mind, that's what I picture. Someone dropping down like Mission Impossible dressed up like Scuba Steve on the pipe. It's an involved process. It's a guy with historical. Anyways, the other thing we need to do, or have already started to begun to do, is remove trees out at our treatment plant. There are trees growing in our ponds. We need to have those remediated. We've already done some of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We
have already checked for $10,000.
Not that. No, we've started some of this. There's more to be done. All in total, we expect it to cost about $7,000 to clean out all the trees that need to be done.
So we drain the ponds out and then remove the trees? How do
No,
we get the trees
they're
out?
on the banks.
They're going on the banks, and you've got to go up now there with a chainsaw and saw them down. But they need to poison the trees. That's what they won't grow back.
Oh, put Roundup on the stumps?
Well, no, not Roundup, but some kind of a herbicide that's safe to the environment.
Better, okay,
What
good.
kind of trees are they?
They're water willows.
Okay.
Do these prizes include installation?
Yeah,
Labor and all that?
this is the all-inclusive price.
Okay.
But I'll note that.
And who's doing all the installation?
So the way that this would work is we would hire, in the Crocker Lift Station, we've received quotes.
Okay.
A company that does this sort of work, we pay for them to do that work, buy the materials, install it, everything. The city's cost would also include having our wastewater operator, Pete, company himself, most likely, or his son, monitor that work and make sure it's being done up to their standards, because they're the ones maintaining the system, and will be the ones to accept on the city's behalf the work that's been performed. Or in the case of the electrical systems, we would hire the electrical engineering firm that gave us the study to go out with that bid proposal process and oversee and accept the work that gets in. So
That study is 2 years old.
it is. So that's why we've earmarked about $20,000 to cover the inflated costs, inflation and other costs. There are things in that study as we go back and do the work. I think they're recommended another pump, perhaps. That's like $30,000 or something. I think they quoted that may or may not be needed. So there'll be some adjustments as we go forward, but I want to at least cover the entire scope. And then if we, based on cost concerns, if we need to prioritize some things over others, we'll make those changes there too.
Yeah, I think we talked about this already.
Real quick, I mean, I think I asked before, what is that piping made out of?
Well, I think, remember we had that Zoom meeting and we had discussion about replacing it with stainless steel.
It's also stainless, so that elbow and where those pumps are is all stainless?
It's supposed, well, right now it's cast iron.
So it's cast iron, or is it stainless?
No.
Cast iron current.
Y'all.
Then you're gonna put stainless.
Y'all proposed to put in stainless steel when we were talking the last time. But right now it has a ductile iron or cast iron, that's what it has.
Is there any problem with ferrous contamination with that stainless?
And I don't know, I know that debate that everybody's going in with that kind of piping in the industry because of corrosion and stuff. There's a lot of gases inside the lift station.
What kind of a, what's the lifespan of that stainless?
So I outlive all of us.
Okay. And the rest of the piping is cast iron, right? The
Yes.
piping all
And
through
then
the city.
once it leaves the wet, this station, it goes into PVC. I get the sewer.
Okay.
So there's a lot of work to be done, but we hope that through upgrading the electrical services and making some of the physical modifications to the plants, equipment that's within them, we'll be able to reduce some of the alarm calls that we get and some of the other issues that we have. And one thing it won't fix is people putting non-flushable items into our pipes, and every time we do that, seriously, it's like a $2,000 cost at least. So if you keep flushing those dang Clorox wipes or
Baby
Continental
wipes.
wipes, baby wipes down your toilet, just know that you're possibly you're making your
Costing
own
the
bills
city.
go up.
How can we educate the citizens of
I
that?
say put little notes in the.
We've
the
done some notes in the
letters.
past, and we can restart that again, but,
Yeah. You know, all,
outlaw
our,
the city ordinance,
always
outlaw
have
the
a
sale of those
list.
things within the city.
yeah, list of things like, what's allowed for recycle
Right.
and, stuff for,
So that's where we're at with the
wastewater.
repairs. The other items are reserving funding for the matching component required on the Northwest River Road project. So that's something that's going to be needed. And then also want to reserve about $25,000 for a future downtown revitalization grant project. So that's a grant that we plan to go for. We released a request for proposals to different grant administrators and get those back at the end of the month. And based off of how much there's a matching component, we get better scored and get awarded. So we can do in kind or cash, but this will help cover if we don't get a full in kind contribution.
What would it do?
The downtown revitalization project has many options under that grant program, and we would have a separate series of public forums to get input on what we would do. So it could street lighting, sidewalks.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Would it be the dark skies improvement stuff that we want to do?
So you could, it basically improve the building in some form or fashion. So they don't do road resurfacing. It's one of the few things that they don't do.
What happened to that? I kept hearing like, oh, we did Lockhart Street, now next we're doing this or that street, but then.
That's not covered under the SPED plan. It would be part of we've used our long-term capital plan to
We're
pay
gonna
for the
build it back
resurfacing.
up to do the next street, and I think it's gonna be Main Street. I think that was number 2, from what I remember. But we're not sure, depends on how much, there's a lot of the roads that need
That's
it
an
back.
area for discussion tonight, if we wanted to take this funding and do more road resurfacing. This is just a proposal. One that I
Corey, did you
recommend.
have something?
I'll pass.
The next is $20,000 for salary expenses and operating expenses. So there's some things that were either missed or have changed since we did our budget in the last month or so, regarding salaries and expenses. And this would help alleviate some of the cost pressures that we have in that budget. Would help us have additional code enforcement work and other things. So it'd be very helpful to have this go to the salaries and expenses. And then we already touched on the technology. No pun intended. So there we go. That's the proposed spend plan. Is there any further question?
So what is the likelihood that we could be building a new plant in the next couple of years?
If any of these proposed development agreements come to fruition, that would require a significant capacity change, that capacity is not going to be available in our current plan. So either that plant, the current plant goes away, or and is replaced through an agreement that we reach with one of those developers, or those developers have their own package plants in their own locations. Obviously, our preference is for those to all be regional and localized in one place.
But I think the important keyword is, like she said, the time frame that you said was what?
In the next few years.
So the development's 10 to 15, 8, if they're fast with it. Because any development that says, okay, we're gonna do this, it isn't gonna happen like within the next few years, realistically.
It kind of depends on where the rest of the infrastructure is. But you're probably looking 5 years before you start seeing houses go up. It could go faster, but they might slow it or speed it up based on market conditions.
Aren't retention ponds kind of old school?
I mean, they're of a.
Yeah.
That plant was built back in the eighties, late eighties.
I know. What kind of plants do they build now?
A lot of them are for quick fix, they usually use package plants, or they build a regional plant or something. I talked to, yesterday we had our inspection from TCEQ yesterday, and I brought that up about the heating capacity. And they're basing it on the incoming flow from the town. And we're averaging about 34,000. And
A day?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're basing it on the permitted number at 57,000.
Yeah.
We're pretty close to that.
So our max capacity is 57,000?
Yes.
So we're over half. Okay.
Oh, 57,000 and what TCQ saw it at what? I thought it was 300.
300. I mean, 34,000.
Yes.
Oh, 34.
I got that information from them, and I'll share it with you all, I'll forward it to y'all, so y'all can see that rule. It's a 75% rule. Once you reach that, you gotta start construction and get engineering involved.
Oh.
So how many homes is that approximately?
I'm thinking, but maybe when they built this hotel here, I think, I'm just guessing. It's getting close, I know that.
So we're almost at 75%.
Oh, wait a minute, clarify this. So we're almost, by TCEQ standards, we can go only to 75% capacity.
Yeah, which is, I think it's, it's rated for 57,000.
That's at 75%.
Oh, okay.
So we got.
We still got some room.
Oh, okay.
You're saying, in your professional opinion, once this development goes.
Yeah, I'm just speculating. I don't want to say yes or no, but when you got a big building like that, of that volume of water and wastewater.
But even if we built a new building, we still have to use the retention pond simultaneously until we get it built. So no matter what,
So how
we
would,
have to keep it going, right?
so how would we increase our capacity with our
By
existing?
building another plant or.
Totally build, you couldn't modify that one at all.
You can, you just have to get an engineer involved with that.
So one of the restrictions is.
Land area.
Yeah, so you have the bad water come in, organisms eat it down and make it safe to put on the ground. And you're limited in how much you put on the ground. So if you consider how much is coming in is how much is going out, probably not, there's probably less going out than is coming in because of evaporation and other things. But we're limited in how much we can sprinkle on the ground.
Gotcha.
And so how much you sprinkle on the ground varies by the weather, the land area, and other things. We have some restricted. We could expand the irrigation out there some to irrigate on more land, but then you're still limited when you irrigate. And
What about sludge removal of the evaporation ponds?
that would help limit how often you have to irrigate. That would hold more.
Is there a leeway, or your professional opinion on the sludge?
We have never taken any sludge out of the pond.
So if you taken, in your professional opinion, if you took some of the sludge out, how much I'm not gonna hold you to it, but I know that sludge builds up.
Yeah, it does.
So you could probably,
Talking about capacity.
yeah, capacity, so it could, I mean, that would be a fairly, am I correct, would be a fairly economical way to increase capacity by removing the
You
sludge.
can, that's a correct statement. You can remove sludge because in the big plants, you gotta remove sludge to make more room into
And it's never been removed.
the.
So I think it'd be half full of sludge or quarter full of
We'll have to
sludge.
go in there and do a measurement.
That'd be a good, if you could do that, that'd be a good.
And there's some options that we've
Yeah.
discussed that you could always, put some, packets of, that help energize the biology a little bit.
We used, one year we used, some, powdered, enzyme. And they ate up all the. sludge and it dumped maybe about a foot or so.
But realistically, it needs to be mechanically removed, you think? I mean, that, if you have that kind of,
Yeah.
I guess we have to take,
It's almost like dredging or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's never.
Like, right now we're talking about the amount, right? And I know that this is good discussion, but
Okay.
I've been up since like 6
No, let's
this
go.
morning.
I'm done,
And
I'm
I
done.
need to, like, if we would have a workshop
Yeah,
on
we
this
need
where we
I'm
can
done,
talk about
okay,
it, where
okay.
I have a clear
Okay.
mind.
I'll talk to you.
And
I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm spent.
I apologize for that. I didn't-
No, no.
Okay,
I just motioned
Yeah.
the table.
yeah.
It's a real.
Go ahead, make a motion. But do we need to approve it?
My recommendation is that you approve this, but it's not an emergency. So if you wanted to table it to another discussion, we can. If you're ready to.
Can we add something to it, like possibly put sludge removal into that? Or if we get a cost, or is that,
You can.
if it's a,
We would need to get, how much that would be, like an estimate.
It would probably come out of the
Do there-
135 out of the
We need to
electrical.
Research these amounts. too.
that could be a cheap,
Okay.
right?
Cheap.
Thanks.
So, why
done.
don't we, think about tabling it until we can come up with, some additional amounts for,
Well, this
We'll just
this
be able to
total,
think about it.
this total amount, that's the amount that we have to spend, right? And if
Right.
we wanted to move the amounts around, we could.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you
So,
don't want to do any wastewater system
Oh,
repairs. If
okay,
you wanted
okay.
to just.
so we can still approve
Yes.
it.
yeah. 'cause-
Well, yeah, in,
And-
within the wastewater, yeah, my,
And-
190,000 is I think what we need to do for wastewater system repairs. Within
okay.
that, there's some
Well,
fungibility that we're going to try to prioritize as we go out and update these quotes and see where things cost, and we'll reprioritize within that. But for now, I'm looking for a budget approval of 190,000 for wastewater system repairs.
190,000. Jan, do you want to
yeah, sure.
make an amendment?
Okay. For the, I'd like to make a motion of the Martindale City Council to approve the spend plan of the
I thought we were
ARPA.
gonna table it.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering, whether we should table it or just approve a portion of it.
Just the 190,000, because he's just looking for the approval for the 190,000.
Well, I know, but
I
still,
would seek
if you-
approval for all 304,000
Yes,
if I
Yeah,
could.
but what I'm saying, what I was thinking about doing was saying, that any proposed changes needs to come back to city council for approval.
Well, see, I think he's looking, all he needs is just the approval for the 304,000. It's all gonna go on wastewater.
Well,
The report that we have is like from 21. The quotes are still possibly gonna go up.
This is a spend plan. Yeah.
yes.
This is an approval of a contract.
So he could still, we
So
would
then
still,
you could Approve the whole. thing.
yes.
Right, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna, yeah.
So it's-
Okay, I make a motion to approve the spend plan of 304,000 for the city of Martindale.
Okay, I want to make a discussion. Could we possibly give us a bid on the sludge removal? That might be a separate topic. Okay,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, we're looking to.
Sam?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries.
I make a motion that we, do you have anything else?
Is there anything to add to the future items? Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we, close the meeting of October 20th at 9:35 PM.
I second.
Aye.
And we